Chapter 1097. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Hold it up. Wave after wave of huge waves crashed against the hull of the ship, causing the tilting ship to become even more precarious. Ah Huang and Ah He stood on the deck as if nothing had happened, pointing at the old monster who had sunk into the water. They were mumbling to themselves and had relaxed smiles on their faces. They had no intention of helping at all. "What's going on?" Qin Hao pressed against the edge of the ship and shouted. "Master, we've encountered a water beast. It's attacking the ship." The old demon stopped attacking and replied nervously. They had only been at sea for a few days and were still a long way from the southern region. The southern sea was vast, and under the influence of the sea, the pressure in the air was extremely high. The airflow was also very unstable, and the gravity was a few times higher than on land. It was not suitable for martial artists to fly, let alone teleport. If they teleported, they would not even be able to find a foothold. If the ship was sunk by the water beast, the consequences would be dire. "Get out of the way!" Qin Hao shouted and flew down. He floated above the water and took out the great void sword. A sharp sword aura was activated and pierced through the bottom of the ship. Chi. The sword aura entered the sea and did not react at all. The resistance at the bottom of the sea is very strong. The strength of the vital energy underwater is not even 30% of its original strength. Damn it! The old monster floated up. His entire body was soaked, and sweat flowed down his hair as he angrily explained. At this moment, the ship was tilting to the point where it was about to flip over. Kair held the edge of the ship tightly with both hands. She looked at the deep sea in panic. The rainbow skylark was a flying bird and could not swim. "Dear, what should I do?" "Flame dragon spinning sky slash." Qin Hao did not hesitate and used his strongest move. The great void sword disappeared and a red fireball gathered in his palm. The soul of a dragon danced in it. Then, he threw the fireball at the bottom of the ship. Boom! The fireball split the water and sank below the ship, creating a huge splash. It was a spectacular sight. After the explosion, the water current surged violently, and a lot of bubbles popped up. The temperature of the sea was visible to the naked eye. This attack did not have any effect. Not only that, it almost flipped the ship over. "Mr. Li, what are you doing?" "Let me tell you, I don't know how to swim." Kair was scared out of her wits. Her hands were trembling and her limbs felt weak. She could no longer hold on to the edge of the boat. If not for Xiao Han's quick reflexes, she would have definitely fallen into the water. "Ha ha ha, the strength of humans is indeed insignificant. They can't be compared to us." Huang wasn't afraid at all. He started to mock Qin Hao. How was he fit to be the next Beast Thearka's master? He was overestimating himself. That's right. This young kid and that old kid are both idiot. Before the Yuan Qi bombardment could even hit the aquatic beast, its strength would be reduced by more than half due to the pressure under the water. The only way to do so was to dive into the sea and engage in close combat with the aquatic beast. However, even if they dive into the sea, they won't be able to defeat the giant deep-sea beasts. Ahe said, gloating. They believed that only by transforming into their true forms would they be able to compete with the giant beasts under the sea. Of course, they wouldn't take the initiative to attack. Unless Qin Hao begged them. "If I knew this would happen, I would have brought Xuehan along." Qin Hao frowned. He ignored the taunts of the two centaur warriors. Instead, he suddenly thought of Yi Xuehan. Yi Xuehan had the most perfect water god body in the world. The southern sea was Yi Xuehan's world. Here, not only would his strength not be weakened, but it would also provide Yi Xuehan with endless water power. If Xuehan was here, she could easily force out the giant beasts that were stuck under the ship. Qin Hao wasn't the same. No matter how ferocious the red lotus fire was, once it came into contact with the deep sea, his body would be severely restricted. This warship still has the ability to fly. Old Demon, open the wings of the ship. We will let the warship take flight and drag the monster under the sea into the air. Qin Hao gritted his teeth and said, I'm afraid it won't work. The warship's weight won't be able to support the giant beast's pull. The giant beasts have immense strength underwater. If we force it to take off, I'm afraid the warship will be torn to pieces. Old Demon had already thought of this idea. Then let me do it. Qin Hao held his palms flat, and a vast amount of yuan qi spread out from his body. The crimson-red yuan qi completely enveloped the warship that was more than 200 meters long. Then, Qin Hao let out a deep roar. His arms seemed to be resisting the heavy pressure, and he lifted them above his head bit by bit. Along with this, half of his face was covered with a layer of dense dragon scales. What? Do you think you can lift the ship and the water monster all by yourself? Huang and Ah were a little surprised by Qin Hao's bold move. Qin Hao seemed to have seen through their thoughts. He grinned at them, and his face tightened as he roared again, Rise! Boom! The warship shook and water splashed everywhere. The part that sank into the sea began to rise rapidly. 1 meter, 2 meters, 5 meters, 10 meters. It kept rising. Perhaps Qin Hao really couldn't use his original strength underwater. But on the water, Qin Hao dared to say that his physical strength was so strong that even 2 centaur warriors couldn't withstand it. It was not difficult to lift the entire warship. Ha ha ha, Mr. Li, you are so powerful. When the warship rose bit by bit until it was out of the control of the sea, K-er immediately felt a sense of security and clapped her hands in praise. At this time, the warship had risen 50 meters, and the monster below was exposed. Looking at it, it was a 100-meter-long ugly meatball that was stuck to the bottom of the ship. As the warship rose higher and higher, the meatball felt a strong sense of danger, and its 8 tentacles sucked tighter. Chapter 1098. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. Someone fell into the sea. Han kill it. Qin Hao's arms trembled as he activated the art of indestructible samsara and activated the power of the dragon soul. His primordial qi was quickly consumed. Jian Baihong. Xiao Han immediately acted. Her beautiful figure turned into a stream of light as she floated in front of Qin Hao. She shook the jade water sword in her hand, and hundreds of sword qi flew out in beautiful arcs toward the octopus that was sucking at the bottom of the ship. It's actually an 8-clawed octopus monster. You've made me so embarrassed. Die. The old demon attacked at the same time. His palms condensed a monstrous blood-red ball of qi as he raised them and blasted the octopus monster. Even though the octopus monster sensed danger approaching, it did not have the chance to escape. It was blasted into pieces by the old demon's blood-red ball of qi. Immediately after, Xiao Han's Jian Baihong smashed the pieces of flesh into minced meat. Blood mixed with organs dyed the sea within a dozen miles, and the air was filled with the thick smell of blood. Boom! Qin Hao dispersed his primordial qi, and the warship safely fell back into the sea. They returned to the deck. Activate the fastest speed and leave this area of the sea. The smell of minced meat and blood will attract more, and even stronger, aquatic beasts. Qin Hao gave the old demon a look. Okay. The old demon nodded and rushed to the engine room without stopping. After a while, Qin Hao and the others felt the deck under their feet shake violently. The warship's speed suddenly increased, and there was a long white water trail behind it. Some small islands in the distance flew past Qin Hao's eyes. Soon, they left the blood-dyed sea. The South Sea is full of danger, and the aquatic beasts are so difficult to deal with. Fortunately, that octopus was not a venerable beast. Qin Hao breathed a sigh of relief and tidied his clothes. If the octopus had reached the level of a venerable beast, it would not have been easy for them. So what if it's a venerable beast? With us 2 brothers here, we can still kill it easily. Huang said disapprovingly. Although his tone was still arrogant, the way he looked at Qin Hao was obviously different. This included his younger brother Ah He. Although his gaze was not filled with admiration for Qin Hao, it was no longer as cold as before, and there was less contempt in his eyes. At the very least, they felt that Qin Hao was not as weak as they had thought. Of course, although Qin Hao's actions had won the ancient beast warriors' approval, it was far from enough to earn their respect. The person they admired and respected could be the next Alchemy Valley. Ha 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 ha. Of course, I'm Sam. Ha hey and hey. Hey and I and Huang and hey, studios and hey studio and was studio. Hey was studio Li was. Studio is studio was nin studio. Ha, realm. S hevs of course. Were of course. S of these two really were these two. Were these two. Perhaps their true fighting strength wasn't much stronger than that of a human race Yuan venerate. The key point was that the Centaur warrior's physique was immune to a large degree of physical damage and vitality damage. In other words, they had indirectly weakened the strength of the enemy. Attacks from opponents of the same level did not cause much of a reaction to Huang and Ah He. On the other hand, the opponent had to endure Ah He's and Huang's full-powered attack. This effect was very abnormal. Roar! At this time, the dog's spirit let out a dignified groan. He was very dissatisfied with Huang and Ah He's performance just now. Although the Centaur warriors would be slightly affected when fighting underwater, subduing the octopus was still a piece of cake. Not only did they not help, they even mocked and ridiculed the old demon, ignoring the danger of their companions. As he muttered to himself, Huang and Ah He left Qin Hao's sight dejectedly. It was as if the dog's spirit had just conveyed the message, "Get lost." Ha ha. Qin Hao leaned over and patted the dog's spirit's head. Big brother Qin Hao, there is still a year before the selection. What are your plans now that we are in the southern region? Xiao Han asked. I'm going to look for Jing Qinqi. Before he left me a token. This person should have an extraordinary family in the southern region. It will be much more convenient for us to act with his help. Qin Hao replied. Actually, there was another reason for looking for Jing Qinqi. That was to kill Xianyuan Wuji. The Xianyuan family was not to be underestimated in the southern region. Without backup, Qin Hao's chances of getting rid of Xianyuan Wuji by himself were very small. If Jing Qinqi was willing to help, the chances would be greatly increased. Okay. Xiao Han nodded as if everything was up to him. He sighed and said, I wonder if Little Melon and Big Sister Wan Qin will come on the day the South Pole Divine Palace opens. Since Yi Longyuan refused to let Yi Xuehan participate, Xiao Han was a little worried. The South Pole Divine Palace opened once every few hundred years. Every batch of disciples would graduate and advance to the Emperor stage. The opportunities were unfathomable. They really shouldn't miss this opportunity. I hope they can come. Qin Hao raised his head and looked at the blue sky of the South Sea. Not only were the opportunities hard to come by, but also death and danger coexisted. Not everyone had the courage to try. Roar. Inexplicably, the dog's spirit let out a vigilant roar. Big sister, look. Someone seems to have fallen into the water. Kair also said and stretched out her hand in the direction of the bow. Qin Hao and Xiao Han looked over and found that there was indeed a group of figures struggling in the sea, calling out, Help! Help! Non-stop. Chapter 1099. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. I know you very well. After soaking in the sea for 8 days and 8 nights, the ship is finally here. The heavens have eyes, the heavens have eyes. I swore that I would never eat fish again. Now that I see fish, I want to have a good meal on the ship. This ship is so big, it probably won't be sunk by sea monsters again. Everyone was overjoyed. At the same time, they raised their hands and begged for help. "Hey, brothers on the ship, give us a lift. Kindness will be rewarded. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. If we don't save them, we will not have any descendants. Master, we don't know the identities of these people. We can't save them." As they got closer, the old demon came out of the engine room. If they saved these villains, they would not repay them and turn around to bite them. It would not be worth it. Moreover, there had always been pirates in the South China Sea. They would often use all kinds of methods to gain the trust of passing merchant ships and then rob and kill them. They were extremely cruel. You green-headed uncle, you don't have any kindness or compassion. I think they are just ordinary people who fell into the sea. How do they look like pirates? Besides, we are so strong, why should we be afraid of them? Mr. Li, ah no, Mr. Qin, you shouldn't be a coward, right? Kair stared at Qin Hao with an overbearing aura, implying that she wanted to save him. That's right. Even if they are pirates, they can only count themselves unlucky to have met us. At this time, Huang and Ah He stood back, their voices full of disdain. They rubbed their fists and looked like they wanted to fight. It was too boring to stay on the ship. They might as well kill some ants to satisfy their cravings. Master, you can't save them. The old demon was not convinced and said again. Forget it, throw down the rope ladder. Qin Hao waved his hand and ordered. It was convenient for him to help others. If those people were not kind people, Qin Hao was not afraid. Most importantly, he seemed to have heard the vicious words, "If we don't save them, we will not have any descendants." This made Qin Hao feel very disgusted. After all, Xiao Han was by his side. Alas! The old demon was a little displeased that his suggestion had not been accepted. He glared fiercely at Kair as he thought to himself, what a simple-minded little girl. She doesn't even have the slightest bit of wariness. Then, according to Qin Hao's order, they slowed down and threw the thick rope ladder to the people who had fallen into the water. When the unfortunate people who had fallen into the water saw this, they scrambled to climb up the rope ladder onto the warship. These people had soaked in the seawater for too long. Not to mention using their yuan qi, their limbs were weak and their bodies were swollen. A few people with weaker physiques were unable to climb up even after a long time. Seeing this, Huang and Ah He grinned and stepped forward to help. Without much effort, they scooped everyone up. Thank you, thank you. If we hadn't met you, I'm afraid we would have been buried at the bottom of the sea and become food for the fish and prawns. I am the second young master of the Zhang family of Fair Mountain City, Zhang Jingze. This is my younger brother, Zhang Jingchen. Thank you for your help, senior. When we reach Fair Mountain City, I will definitely repay you well. A young man whose body was swollen from the seawater stood on the deck of the ship. His legs were trembling non-stop. He pointed at the other young man beside him and reported their origins. Perhaps it was because the old demon was the oldest, and from his appearance, the old demon who had occupied Dugu Xuanxiao's body had a stronger aura. He had a rather sage-like temperament, so Zhang Jingze mistook him for the warship's leader. He also spoke to the old demon respectfully. Are you blind? The old demon scolded angrily. He raised his hand and pointed at Qin Hao. This is the real owner of this ship, and also my master, young Master Qin Hao. My master was kind enough to save your lives. Oh. Sorry. Jingze was rude. Thank you for your help, young Master Qin. I am very grateful. Zhang Jingze took the lead and bowed to Qin Hao. When he raised his head, he suddenly saw the slender and elegant figures of Xiao Han and Kair standing beside Qin Hao. His eyes could not help but light up. His eyes were immediately attracted to them, and a raging fire began to spread impulsively in his body. Second brother. When Zhang Jingchen saw this, he hurriedly used his arm to prod Zhang Jingze twice. Then, he cast an apologetic look at Qin Hao. Only then did Zhang Jingze regain his senses. It's nothing. Don't mention it. Look at you guys. You've been soaking in the sea for many days. Go down and eat something to replenish your strength. As for the reward, there's no need for it. Qin Hao waved his hand. Huang and Ah He laughed coldly. They turned around and led everyone down to eat. Wait a minute. At that moment, a young man with a coffin face in the crowd, who looked like a lackey, suddenly turned around. His withered yellow eyes stared at Qin Hao and sized him up. He said in surprise, "It's really you, Qin Hao? I thought I recognized the wrong person." "You know me?" Qin Hao frowned slightly. "Of course I know you. After all, I am also one of the outstanding contestants from the Northern District who had the honor of challenging the preliminaries. Unfortunately, I failed the final challenge." That's not right. Why weren't you killed in the same year and month? Based on your strength, you should be dead by now." The young man with a coffin face frowned in confusion. He found it unbelievable. In fact, the young man with a coffin face was one of the first to give up on the ironback demonic lizard challenge. Later, when Zhang Jingzi sent him a message, he hurriedly went to welcome him. Therefore, he did not know the final result of the Emperor Martial competition. A piece of trash who did not even have the guts to challenge the preliminaries would naturally not know that Xiao Han, who was standing beside Qin Hao, was actually the Emperor Wu's daughter, Princess Jingyue. "What? You guys really know each other?" Zhang Jingzi turned around. "Of course we know each other. Master Zhe, let me tell you. This Qin Hao is a lucky guy from the Northern District. He's not very strong, but he's quite famous." The young man with a coffin face leaned close to Zhang Jingzi's ear and told him all he knew about Qin Hao. Judging from his eloquent manner, he seemed to know Qin Hao quite well. Chapter 1100. Translator. Naiweibo Studio. Who's the master? Furthermore, in order to elevate Zhang Jingzi's status, the coffin-faced young man had even belittled Qin Hao's mediocre strength by adding fuel to the fire. In any case, at the end of the story, Qin Hao's cultivation had become a level 3 Yuan monarch. He was even worse than Coffin Face. When Zhang Jingzi heard this, he couldn't help but feel a sense of superiority rise infinitely, and his attitude became much more arrogant. But what makes me curious is, how did Qin Hao manage to survive from the hands of those two terrifying people in the same year and month? Coffin Face was extremely rampant right now, and could be said to be completely unbridled. "Impudent! How can you speak so bluntly to your benefactor?" Zhang Jingzi pretended to reprimand the coffin-faced youth and even slapped him without holding back, breaking 2 of the coffin-faced youth's teeth. Qin Hao couldn't help but admire Zhang Jingzi's acting skills. Just now, he couldn't even stand steadily. Now, with a wave of his hand, even his lackey's teeth were knocked out. Although he could tell that Zhang Jingzi was not a good person, Qin Hao pretended to be ashamed. "My skills are not as good as his. As a loser, I've made Brother Zhang laugh." Creak. Xiao Han clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were filled with a strong killing intent. Qin Hao secretly tightened his grip on Xiao Han's hand. When he felt the warmth of his palm, the murderous aura between Xiao Han's brows immediately disappeared. Brother Qin, don't look down on yourself so much. Victory and defeat are commonplace in war. You might as well tell me where those 2 impudent fellows live. Zhang Jingzi, will stand up for you and let them die without an intact corpse." Zhang Jingzi roared in a very magnanimous manner. Moreover, he had a regretful look on his face, as if he had participated in the imperial martial competition, he would most likely have gotten first place. Even if he didn't get first place, he could at least tie with the top 10 geniuses of Imperial Martial University. "Second brother, let's go down and eat something first. We still have a long way to go. Your health is more important," Zhang Jingchen urged from the side. Zhang Jingchen knew very well what kind of person his second brother was. He was also afraid that the other party would say too much and make Qin Hao feel disgusted. On the other hand, He wanted to prevent Qin Hao from getting close to Zhang Jingze, fearing that Qin Hao would be hurt. I'm indeed quite hungry. Since that's the case, I'll chat with Brother Qin after I'm full. Ha ha ha. Zhang Jingze swaggered away with his hands behind his back. As he turned around, he glared fiercely at Xiao Han and Kei. Unfortunately, their ship was sunk by a sea monster. After being in the sea for so long, there were only men and fish around them. Zhang Jingze had been suppressing his anger for too long and urgently needed to vent it. Moreover, Xiao Han and Kei were as beautiful as fairies. Zhang Jingze was almost unable to control himself. If not for the fact that his legs were weak and he had no strength left, he might have attacked them on the spot. After I'm full and recover my strength, I'll have a good night with those two beauties. The heavens have been kind to me. They've given me a ship and two beauties. Qin Hao is also a good-for-nothing. If I don't take him, I'll be letting my ancestors down. Zhang Jingze said viciously in his heart. He secretly shot a look at an old man beside him. Even though this old man had been in the sea for 8 days and 8 nights, he still walked with vigor. It was obvious that his cultivation level was high. In fact, if not for this old man, Zhang Jingze and the others would have been eaten by the sea monsters. Brother Qin Hao, why did you stop me? He actually looked down on you. He deserves to die. Looking at Zhang Jingze's back, Xiao Han raised her pretty face and asked. Her eyes were filled with anger again. The second young master of the Zhang family in Flat Mountain City? Haha, I just happened to be lacking a guide. He delivered himself to me. Qin Hao smiled coldly. The southern region was very vast, even larger than the northern border and western Liang. Although Zheng Qingqi's family was extraordinary, he might not know everyone. Thus, Qin Hao needed a reliable person to ask around. From his words and actions, it was obvious that Zhang Jingze was not a kind person. However, if he could be more honest, Qin Hao could guarantee that he would spare his dog life before they reached the southern region. If not, he would let him sink to the bottom of the sea and be eaten by the sea monsters. That Zhang Jingchen, on the other hand, is not bad, Qin Hao said quietly. Zhang Jingchen had deliberately stopped him from getting close to his second brother with good intentions. Now that he had killed Zhang Jingze, he had to be ruthless and get rid of Zhang Jingchen. Killing the innocent was not Qin Hao's style. Let's spare his dog life first. Xiao Han pulled Kei back to the cabin. Kei seemed to know that she had made a mistake this time and saved a bunch of ingrate. Thus, she did not make a sound. Old demon, pay more attention to the yellow-haired old man beside Zhang Jingze. He is a level 6 Yuan Venerate. Qin Hao turned and walked back to the cabin. The dog spirit followed him silently. Hee. The old demon smiled sinisterly and turned into a bloody mist before vanishing. A level 6 Yuan Venerate? In Qin Hao's words, it was best to know your place. Otherwise, anyone on the ship could torture the yellow-haired old man to death. Don't stand up for the idiot Zhang Jingze and think that he is invincible. The journey was peaceful. After experiencing the attack of the octopus, they did not encounter any other water monsters. Perhaps this had something to do with the beast aura emitted by the dog spirit. The dog spirit had been assimilating the beast emperor's inheritance along the way. With Qin Hao's help, its assimilation speed gradually increased. As for Zhang Jingze and the others, they were quite well behaved and did not do anything overboard after boarding the ship. Chapter 1101. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio Wife protecting Demon Qin Hao's cabin. The dog spirit was lying on the side, quietly absorbing the beast emperor's inheritance. Its body was covered by a layer of light. The light seemed to be breathing, expanding and contracting at times. Along with this, the high-level aura of the beast emperor in its body became more and more pure. Qin Hao sat on the bed, holding the Ling Tian jade in his right hand and resting his chin on his left hand. He seemed to be thinking about something, glancing at the dog spirit from time to time. When the great void holy sword is fully formed, how should I insert the Ling Tian jade into it? Let it have the magical effect of absorbing vitality. Qin Hao raised his eyebrows slightly. The problem in front of him was a difficult one. Before the sword was fully formed, inserting a gem into it during the refining stage was a very easy and normal thing to do. After it was fully formed, inserting it again would seem like drawing legs on a snake, and it could easily damage the sword. Moreover, the great void holy sword was not something ordinary items could compare to. It was a real divine weapon. If the method of inserting it was wrong, the impact would be even greater. The single-edged sword is light in construction and unparalleled in sharpness. It pursues extreme speed to defeat the enemy. Under normal circumstances, when swinging it, the airflow will affect the sword. How to control the direction of the sword and the angle of the attack is a test of the swordsman's ability and judgment. At this time, if I insert another piece of jade into the sword, no matter where I insert it, it will destroy the stability of the single-edged sword. It was not easy to insert the Ling Tian jade into an ordinary finished weapon. It was even more difficult to insert it into a single-edged sword. For this single-edged sword, Qin Hao had used up a lot of his willpower and mental strength to successfully refine it. To perfectly insert the Ling Tian jade into the sword, this was a test of Qin Hao's refining skills. If he was not careful, the sharpness of the sword would be damaged. If it caused the quality of the divine weapon to drop, it would be a huge joke. He had to be very careful. There's still a long time before the signs start, there's no need to rush. Qin Hao could not think of a reasonable solution at the moment, so he put the Ling Tian jade back into the spatial ring. At this time, he looked at the dog spirit. Half a month had passed, and the beast emperor aura in Brother Dog's body had become several times purer. He believed that once he finished fusing with the power of inheritance, not only would his cultivation level soar, even his original inferior bloodline would be reborn. Unfortunately, the dog spirit was unable to transform into a human, which made Qin Hao very depressed. If I use the Ling Tian jade to absorb the shackles of the old beast emperor, will Brother Dog transform into a human? Qin Hao's eyes suddenly lit up. This was definitely a good idea. But immediately, he shook his head. It was too dangerous. Who the hell knew why the old beast emperor had placed a seal on the dog spirit? If the shackles were removed, the dog spirit would still not be able to transform into a human. Instead, the power of the inheritance would be lost. After thinking about it, Qin Hao felt that it was better to let nature take its course. Perhaps he would be able to find out the real reason when his cultivation level improved and he had the ability to break through the beast Thearcha's seal. What are you doing? Who let you in? Get out. Two little beauties, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't struggle. Even if you shout until your throat is hoarse, no one will come to save you, especially not in front of me. Obey me obediently and you can avoid physical pain. If you resist, it will only stimulate my emotions and make me even more excited. Ahahaha! Suddenly, there was movement downstairs. There was K.'s reprimanding voice and Zhang Jing's vulgar laughter. This kid can't hide his foxtail anymore. Qin Hao snorted coldly and got up to go downstairs. Woof woof. The dog spirit's mouth curled up, revealing his fangs. He stopped fusing with the power of inheritance and immediately followed. Downstairs, in the cabin hall, Xiao Han and K.', were forced from the boudoir by Zhang Jingze to the spacious hall. At this moment, the old demon's face was gloomy. In front of him was the yellow-haired old man. Huang and Ah He were surrounded by a large group of Zhang Jingze's subordinates. Their swords and sabers were already placed on Huang and Ah He's necks, making them unable to move. Zhang Jingze rubbed his hands and licked his lip. With a vulgar look on his face, he closed in on Xiao Han and K.', step by step until the two girls retreated to the corner of the hall. In fact, Ke wanted to kill Zhang Jingzi and everyone else with one slap. However, Xiao Han secretly stopped her. Therefore, Ke was anxious. She could not understand why her sister did not allow her to do it. We saved you out of kindness. Is this how you repay us? Xiao Han asked coldly. That's right. This is how I repay you. I'll use my young and vigorous body to communicate with you two beauties. This is the best way to repay you in the world. Let's fuse together. Zhang Jingzi's mouth was full of obscenities. He stretched out his hands and grabbed Xiao Han without restraint. Stop! A shout was heard. Qin Hao had arrived. At this moment, Xiao Han's face revealed an imperceptible smile. Sister, why are you smiling like an idiot? Why don't you let me kill this shameless bastard? Ke transmitted her voice angrily. Stay here quietly and just watch. Xiao Han took Ke's hand. Her smile became even sweeter. She liked the feeling of being protected by Qin Hao. There was a man here. She had to give her man enough face and aura. Chapter 1102. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Wrong information. Oh, it's Qin Hao. Zhang Jingzi turned around lazily and looked at Qin Hao casually. The corners of his mouth curled up in disdain. He didn't take Qin Hao seriously at all. I'm sorry, Mr. Qin. My second brother was confused for a moment. Please leave first. I swear that I will take care of it and won't let the two ladies get hurt. Zhang Jingchen was very nervous. He stepped in front of Qin Hao to prevent a fierce conflict between the two sides. Get lost. Qin Hao slapped Zhang Jingchen away and stepped in front of Zhang Jingzi. They looked at each other face to face. Oh, are you angry? What's the use of being angry? If you know what's good for you, get out of this house. I can consider not killing you since you saved me. But this ship, including everything on it, is under my control. Zhang Jingzi put his hands behind his back and looked steady as if he had Qin Hao under control. Qin Hao first glanced at Xiao Han. He knew that Xiao Han's cultivation was high and wouldn't be at a disadvantage, but he still couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. His eyes flashed coldly as he said to Zhang Jingzi, What if I don't? Don't be so shameless. It's Qin Hao's fortune that Master Zhe has taken a liking to your maid. Get lost. The coffin-faced young man scolded loudly. Qin Hao dared to disobey Master Zhe. He really didn't know what was good for him. Second brother, please stop. Young Master Qin has done us a favor. Even a beast knows how to repay kindness. You actually repay kindness with enmity. You will become the laughingstock of the Zhang clan. Zhang Jingchen pleaded, feeling extremely regretful. Men, take third brother to the side. Don't let him get in the way. Zhang Jingzi waved his hand. Immediately, two men stepped forward and pressed Zhang Jingchen's shoulders. They pinned his arms behind his back and pushed him to the side. Zhang Jingzi, I'm ashamed of you. Aren't you afraid of retribution and being struck by lightning? Zhang Jingchen stomped his feet and roared angrily. Veins appeared on his forehead. Retribution? Third brother, look at how useless you are. You don't even have the slightest bit of a man's ferocity. You deserve to be despised by father. In 6 more days, we will be able to return to Flat Mountain City. In Flat Mountain City, our Zhang clan is retribution, the wrath of the heavens. We are the heavens that crush the commoners like ants. What's wrong with me playing with 2 women? If you have nothing better to do than to oppose me, don't blame me for being ruthless. Zhang Jingzi's face turned ferocious, and then he glared at Qin Hao and shouted, Last chance, get out of this room. If you don't, you will die. Master Zhe, why are you wasting words with him? A loser of the monarch martial competition has no right to bargain. Watch me take him down and let him know how useless he is. White Bone Hand! The coffin-faced young man roared. In order to curry favor with Zhang Jingzi, he did not hesitate to make a move. He stretched out his 5 fingers and suddenly clawed at Qin Hao's position. A streak of white skeletal claw energy pierced through the air. This move was very ruthless, similar to Xianyuan Wuji's dragon claw hand. Unfortunately, the coffin-faced young man was not Xianyuan Wuji, nor did he have Xianyuan Wuji's temperament. Boom! Before the white bony hand could get close to him, a red lotus flame shot out from Qin Hao's body, swallowing up coffin-face white bony hand as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. At the same time, coffin-face palm was shattered in a single blow. Blood spurted wildly, and the severed fingers fell to the ground. "My white bone hand!" the coffin-faced young man screamed miserably. He almost immediately fell to the ground and frantically tried to pick up his broken fingers. As long as his blood vessels were unobstructed and he received treatment in time, his broken fingers could be reattached. He did not want to become a cripple. However, when he reached out his left hand, Qin Hao stomped down on the coffin-faced young man's palm, crushing it into a pulp. This step caused the coffin-faced young man to be in so much pain that he wanted to die. He fell back to Zhang Jingze's feet. "Master Zhe, save me!" The coffin-faced young man was scared out of his wits. He hid behind Zhang Jingze, his eyes filled with fear. He never expected that. Qin Hao's cultivation was actually higher than his, and he was even able to crush him. Not bad. Zhang Jingze was surprised, but he did not panic. He raised his palm and slammed it heavily on Qin Hao's chest. His 6th LV King stage cultivation erupted. Qin Hao did not dodge and took it head-on. You don't even have the ability to dodge. Stop pretending and lie down obediently," Zhang Jingze said solemnly. He firmly believed that in the next second, Qin Hao would fall under him and die. Unfortunately, he was wrong. At this moment, an incomparably vigorous inner strength passed through Zhang Jingze's palm and crashed into his body. Zhang Jingze's qi and blood immediately reversed. He couldn't hold back his menstruation, and his head shot up 3 feet high. It was an incomparably spectacular sight. "Master Zhe! Master Zhe! Protect Master Zhe!" The guards of the Zhang family were shocked and hurriedly protected Zhang Jingze, who was spurting blood and retreating. At this moment, Zhang Jingze's eyes were filled with horror. How can an 8th LV King stage cultivator be so strong? Zhang Jingze's face was distorted as he looked at the coffin-faced young man. Qin Hao's cultivation was different from what he had said. The information he had was wrong. He had kicked an iron plate. "I'm sorry, young Master Zhe. I didn't expect Qin Hao's cultivation to progress so quickly in just over a month. It's most likely that he obtained a treasure from the Emperor Martial Arts competition that allowed him to be reborn," Coffin Face said with tears in his eyes. Although it was unexpected, there was still a Yuan Venerate in the team. Chapter 1103. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations spare his rotten life, ha ha ha. Xiao Han and K sneered at the same time. They had seen through the young man's thoughts. He had the mentality of having the yellow-haired old man as his backer. However, the yellow-haired old man wouldn't be able to protect himself. Interesting. So Big Sister wants to oppress them bit by bit and instill fear in them. This is indeed much more interesting than killing them directly. Was secretly delighted, as she had misunderstood Xiao Han's meaning. Zhang Jingze became angrier when he heard the laughter of the 2 women. He felt that they were mocking him on purpose. Thus, he invited the yellow-haired old man to step forward without hesitation. "Qin Hao, don't be too self-righteous. So what if your cultivation is higher than mine? With Mr. Yamamoto 52 here, you won't be able to behave atrociously. Mr. Yamamoto, please get rid of this person for me. I will definitely reward you handsomely later," he said respectfully. The yellow-haired old man was Yamamoto 52. Old Yamamoto nodded. His tense, weathered face exuded an indescribable dignity. He first glanced coldly at the old demon before saying disdainfully, "Fellow Taoist, old man, I advise you to behave yourself. Given your third-level Yuan venerate cultivation, you won't be able to contend with the old man. Although I can easily exterminate you with a single palm strike, I hope that you can rely on young Master Jingza and work for him. This is the wisest choice." The old demon was stunned by Yamamoto's words. Exterminate second master with a single palm strike? I'm afraid that I, the second master, can just casually blow a breath and you, old dog, will go to heaven. Yamamoto thought that the old demon had been frightened by his warning. Thus, he arrogantly walked over to Qin Hao and pointed a finger at Qin Hao's face in a condescending manner. I will give you a chance to crawl out on account of the fact that you once saved the old man. If you don't comply, I will use some means to consign you to eternal damnation. Ha ha! Qin Hao also smiled. Then I would like to experience the feeling of being consigned to eternal damnation. Please don't be stingy with your teachings and let me experience eternal damnation. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Die. Yamamoto's fury, which contained a majestic palm chi and purple venerate level flames, viciously pressed down on Qin Hao's head. Spirit Lord, Qin Hao, his head. A Yuan venerate's action. Of course, only Zhang Jingza and his men were shocked. Qin Hao and the others didn't feel anything. Even the dog spirit looked down on Yamamoto 52. Heavens, good people don't have good karma. I, Zhang Jingchen, have studied hard for 10 years. What use do I have for them? Seeing that Qin Hao had been killed by a single palm strike, the Zhang clan's third young master let out a sorrowful cry. However, this palm did not land on Qin Hao's body. The old monster stepped forward and pushed Qin Hao away. This palm pressed down on the old monster's shoulder. Oh! Yamamoto was slightly alarmed. He never expected the old demon to move so quickly and withstand the palm strike. He said in surprise, "What a loyal servant who is eager to protect his master. What a pity. However, I only used 50% of my strength, so it's not strange that you were able to block it. Since you insist on seeking death, I will send you on your way. Mountain-pinching divine finger." Yamamoto 52 started to use his martial technique as he spoke. He extended 2 fingers and stabbed at the old Yamamoto. "Stop acting tough in front of second master. Get lost." The old demon could no longer tolerate it. He extended his hand and ignored the Yuan Qi that lingered around Yamamoto's fingers. He clenched 2 of Yamamoto's fingers tightly and twisted them with all his might. Yamamoto's fingers were twisted into deformed chicken feet. Yamamoto screamed and retreated frantically. You are actually not a third-level Yuan venerate. Even the old man has times when he makes a mistake. This miserable cry instantly caused the hearts of Zhang Jingza and the others to clench fiercely, and they revealed terrified expressions. Third-level Yuan venerate my ass. I deliberately let you see that I was a third-level Yuan venerate. Now you are about to die. The old demon leaped up and landed on Yamamoto's head. Ha ha ha. Arrogant. Let's see who is about to die. Do you really think I am afraid of you? Do you really think I am weaker than you? Then you are gravely mistaken. I still have the mountain-splitting axe. I will use it now and let you see its power. Bang! Yamamoto's voice came to a halt with a loud explosion. Before he could take out the mountain-splitting axe, the old demon had already twisted his head off. Everyone, including Qin Hao and Zhang Jingza, had lost the opportunity to admire the mountain-splitting axe. Gulp! Throwing the bloody head in his hand in front of Zhang Jingza, the old monster glared with a pair of gloomy eyes and fell silent. However, this uncomfortable silence frightened Zhang Jingza so much that he screamed. He finally understood that the uncle in the green hat before him was the real expert. Brother Qin, please spare my worthless life. I was muddle-headed and almost made a big mistake. Fortunately, I still have a chance to turn back and make up for it. I am going to turn back. As the saying goes, humans are not saints. Who can err? I hope you can give me a chance to turn over a new leaf and be lenient. Let us become good friends again. Brother Qin, I feel like old friends at first sight. Zhang Jingzi, who had lost his backer, knelt at Qin Hao's feet and begged in pain. Chapter 1104. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Duan Zhang's home. At this moment, a wisp of white soul gas emerged from Yamamoto's body and entered the old demon's mouth, where he refined it with the blood demon technique. Even the soul couldn't escape. This scene caused Zhang Jingzi to be even more terrified. I originally wanted to spare your dog life. As long as you knew your place, you would have a chance to return to the southern region alive. But you had to do this. You can't blame anyone else. Qin Hao stretched out his hand and pressed down on Zhang Jingzi's head. You want to live after attacking Xiaohan? Sorry, you think too much. Young Master Qin, please spare my second brother's life. He was confused for a moment and wants to turn over a new leaf. Let me go. Zhang Jingchen struggled to break free from the two evil slaves who were escorting him. He hurriedly knelt in front of Qin Hao and begged for mercy for his second brother. Jingchen, protect me. Don't let Qin Hao kill me. I'm your brother. I loved you the most when you were young. I caught crickets for you, taught those bastards who bullied you a lesson, and even fought for Big Brother's snacks for you. Good brother, don't let him kill me. I don't want to die. His third brother had been kind since he was young and was Zhang Jingzi's only hope. He was so scared that he hid behind Zhang Jingchen and even pushed Zhang Jingchen toward Qin Hao. Young Master Qin, my second brother really knows his mistake. Please let him go. If you really want to kill him, kill me. I just beg you to let my second brother go. Recalling the past, Zhang Jingchen was even more pained. He gritted his teeth and was willing to die for his second brother. Qin Hao's hand hesitated. He frowned slightly and sighed at Zhang Jingchen's righteousness. Unfortunately, his kindness was fed to the dog. His second brother was pushing him towards his own position. If they weren't facing Qin Hao now, but a swamp instead, Qin Hao didn't doubt that Zhang Jingzi would personally push his brother into the swamp and then leave by stepping on Zhang Jingchen's body. If others make mistakes, they might be able to change, but he is hopeless. Get out of my way. Qin Hao kicked Zhang Jingchen away and reached for Zhang Lauer's neck. Qin Hao, I'm warning you. If you kill me, you can forget about leaving Flat Mountain City alive. Fair Mountain Harbor is the closest harbor to us, and it's the place you must pass to reach the southern mountain range. I crushed the family's sound transmission jade talisman and told the elders about the ship's appearance. I'm sure they've already sent people to wait at the harbor. Our Zhang clan is a reputable clan in Flat Mountain City. If you don't see me return safely, you won't be able to live even if you have 10 heads. That cuckold isn't invincible. He won't be able to protect you. Seeing that there was no room for negotiation, Zhang Jingzi threatened fiercely. He wasn't wrong. He had indeed used the Zhang clan's voice transmission jade talisman. Due to the low grade of the jade talisman, the cultivation of the Zhang family's patriarch was not very high. The voice transmission jade talisman would only take effect when he was close to the southern mountain range. And this journey would take another 5 or 6 days before Qin Hao would arrive. Flat Mountain City was right in front of them. Why do you think I dared to act so unbridled? Could it be because of the incompetent Yamamoto? You're wrong. My grandfather is a level 8 Yuan Venerate, and my father is a level 7 Yuan Venerate. Their strength far surpasses that of Yamamoto 52. Even my big brother, Zhang Jingshan, is not someone you can compare to. My big brother, Zhang Jingshan, obtained the qualifications to enter the finals of the Northern Territory Imperial Martial Competition. You, on the other hand, didn't even pass the preliminaries. What are you, Qin Hao, in front of my big brother? Why aren't you kowtowing and admitting your mistake right now? Also, get your 2 maidservants to serve me well. If I'm satisfied, I might consider sparing your life. Zhang Jingze had laid out all his family assets. He believed that Qin Hao must be so scared that he was about to piss his pants. A level 8 Yuan Venerate, a level 7 Yuan Venerate, and a big brother who made it to the finals? Qin Hao couldn't help but chuckle deep down. Was this the reason Zhang Jingze was so arrogant? That was really a little too pitiful. How dare he show off in front of the champions of the Imperial Martial Competition after obtaining a mere spot in the finals? One had to know that even if one made it to the finals, there were still the finals, the top 10 competition, the top 3 competition, and many other difficult hurdles. Based on Zhang Jingze's tone, his big brother, Zhang Jingshan, had failed in the finals and was probably even weaker than Gong Shujian, who was wearing a mecha. Qin Hao could even force Zhou Wudao, a genius of the East Continent who was comparable to the Lesser Emperor, to flee in a sorry state. Zhang Jingze's grandfather was an ordinary level 8 Yuan Venerate. Forget it, I'll send you to hell. Qin Hao found Zhang Jingze hilarious. Thus, he grabbed the other party's neck from a distance. Young Master Qin, what my second brother said is true. Our Zhang family is very powerful. He is not lying to you. You must not be reckless. Zhang Jingchen was burning with anxiety. He was worried that Qin Hao would kill him. He was also worried that the family's patriarch would turn around and kill Qin Hao. Revenge breeds revenge. His brain was getting muddled from all the reading. However, Qin Hao couldn't be bothered. As Zhang Jingze screamed in agony, Qin Hao crushed his shoulders and knees and threw them coldly at the old demon. Throw him into the sea. Killing him with one palm strike is too easy for him. Zhang Jingze's fate was to be thrown into the sea to feed the fish. Qin Hao, you are vicious and merciless. Aren't you afraid of retribution and the wrath of the heavens? I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Plop. Luo Shui was heard. Zhang Jingze's curse disappeared into the vast sea. Retribution? Wrath of the heavens? Ha ha! When I reach Fair Mountain City, I will let you know what true wrath of the heavens is. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to experience it. Qin Hao waved at Huang Ahe. At the same time, there were continuous cracking sounds. The swords placed on Huang and Ahe's necks were shattered into pieces with Qin Hao's wave of his hand. Then, amidst the shrill screams of the Zhang family guards, the corpses turned into the masterpieces of Ahe and Huang. The coffin-faced young man ran fast. In fact, before Zhang Jingze was thrown into the sea, he was so scared that he jumped into the sea. Second brother. Zhang Jingchen lost his family and his tears flowed down. His eyes were filled with hatred for Qin Hao. He turned around and wanted to jump out of the window to save his second brother. However, he was stopped by the old demon. Watch him and bring him back to the Zhang family. Qin Hao ordered and turned around to leave with the dog spirit. The one with evil intentions was the second son of the Zhang family. Zhang Jingchen didn't deserve to die. More importantly, the eldest son of the Zhang family had participated in the Emperor Martial Arts competition. Since he was also from the southern region, he should have some understanding of Jing Qinqi. Qin Hao brought a living descendant of the Zhang family back, so that he could ask about Jing Qinqi's whereabouts. He couldn't force the Zhang family too much. Did you understand? After everyone left, Xiao Han asked Ke. Interesting. Very interesting. Ke pretended to be mature and imitated Martial Emperor Xiao Yi's actions. She rubbed her chin and answered thoughtfully. Sigh. Xiao Han shook his head. He thought that she would say, Qin Hao is really charming. Chapter 1105. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Zhang Jingze was back. 6 days later. Southern Mountain Range, Ping City Harbor. While the northern borderline was cold and frosty, on the other side of the mainland, Ping City was like spring all year round. Ping City was located along the coast of the southern mountain range. The climate here was mild and the soil was moist. Even the air was filled with the fragrance of the soil. A large number of migratory birds were resting by the coast, and the harbor was bustling. Early in the morning, the city was bustling with people and carriages. It looked like a heavenly paradise everywhere. Ping City Harbor was a free trade harbor. It was not under the jurisdiction of any hegemonic power. It was not that it was too poor and was despised by others. On the contrary, Ping City was one of the most prosperous cities in the entire southern mountain range. It was because it was too prosperous and had a large population flow. It was an important transportation hub that connected the northern borderline, western Liang, and the southern mountain range. That was why it was difficult to control. According to the historical records of the southern mountain range, the only time Ping City Harbor was overrun by a hegemonic power was the Chang country 2,000 years ago. Back then, the Chang country coveted Ping City's wealth and forcefully included it in their territory. However, later on, the Chang country's royal family sent the city lord to oversee Ping City, offended a martial artist who came ashore from the other side. The shocking thing was that the seemingly ordinary martial artist was actually an emperor-level mighty figure from the East continent. The consequences were obvious. The emperor-level mighty figure could not stand the humiliation. He revealed his cultivation and killed all the people in the city lord's residence. Then, he attacked the Chang country's royal city in anger and slaughtered the royal family. Only then was he able to vent his anger and leave. Since then, no one coveted this complicated Ping City. They were afraid that history would repeat itself one day and they would accidentally offend a peerless mighty figure. Therefore, Ping City was now a free trade harbor. Only a few slightly powerful mid-level family clans took turns to govern the city. The Zhang family was one of them. Everyone, look! What a huge warship! It's too big. It's like a small island. I think it's at least 80 meters tall. I wonder which powerful force has come to the southern mountain range. Brothers, cheer up and welcome the big boss who came from afar. It's time to get rich, ha ha. The laborers standing at the docks were overjoyed. Ignoring the exhaustion from a night of hard work and their sweat-drenched bodies, they rushed madly towards Qin Hao's warship, not even bothering to wipe the sweat off their faces. The coastal waters were very shallow, and they needed a tracker. In addition, transporting the items on the ship was also a considerable reward. No one was willing to fall behind and miss out on the opportunity to earn big money. Unfortunately, their wish was destined to fail. Before the warship could reach the beach, it disappeared with a flash of light from several thousand meters away. The running laborers saw a group of extraordinary figures flying through the air and landing in front of them. Take us to the Zhang clan. Qin Hao put the warship into his interspatial ring and pushed Zhang Jingchen's back. Qin Hao, you should know that once you step into our Zhang clan, you will face severe consequences. It's still not too late to escape now. After you escape, I'll tell the elders of the family about second brother's death at sea and let them hunt you down. Zhang Jingchen turned around coldly. His fists were clenched so tightly that they creaked. His eyes were still filled with resentment. However, he also knew that it was his second brother who had attacked first. Death. He had only himself to blame. However, he had to avenge his blood relative. Now that he had given Qin Hao a chance to escape, Zhang Jingchen had done his duty. Cut the crap. If we were afraid, we wouldn't have come. Lead the way for second master's master, or I'll crush you to death right now. The old demon pushed Zhang Jingchen again and ordered coldly. Sigh. Zhang Jingchen shook his head helplessly. Following the familiar path in his memory, he walked home with heavy steps. Before they left, they were three brothers. Now that they were back, he was the only one left. Behind Zhang Jingchen, Qin Hao and the others followed one by one. I thought I could make a fortune. I didn't expect him to have such a large interspatial ring. Everyone, look. Isn't that the Zhang clan's third young master? Why does he look like he's being forced? Forcing the Zhang clan's third young master is a capital offense. Those people won't have a good time. I don't think so. That handsome young master just now was able to store such a large warship with a wave of his hand. The level of his interspatial ring is quite high. It means that his identity is not ordinary. The Zhang clan might have kicked an iron plate because of this. Is history going to repeat itself? Is the Zhang clan about to be destroyed? Let's go and see. Whoosh. Many laborers chased after Qin Hao. A small number of people stayed behind and continued to do business. The cost of living in Flat Mountain City was very high. If they didn't make a little more money, it would be very difficult to survive here. Not long after Qin Hao and Zhang Jingchen left, about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, in the distance there was another extremely magnificent ship on the surface of the sea. It pushed the waves forward, and its size was also quite large. However, compared to the sturdiness and practicality of the Luoshui warship, this second ship was too gaudy and extravagant. It was obvious that it was a luxury ship for pleasure. Oh, I'm finally back. I, Zhang Jingze, am bound to have good fortune after surviving a great disaster. Since I'm not dead, Qin Hao's good days have come to an end. I'll let him die without a burial place. I'll cut him into pieces, chop him into mincemeat, and throw him into the sea to feed the fish. Angry curses rang out like thunder. Zhang Jingze, who was crippled and looked like a ghost, appeared on the beach. If it weren't for me, you would have died without a doubt. Ha! Immediately after, a glib and extremely pompous laughter spread out. Again, without giving the dock laborers a chance to use their fists and feet, a dazzling light flashed and the second ship disappeared from the coastline. At this time, a group of people in gorgeous clothes walked out from the light. The one who spoke was a noble playboy holding a paper fan in his hand. In the playboy's arms was a peerless beauty with heavy makeup. The peerless beauty kept acting coquettishly in his arms. Of course, calling this woman a peerless beauty was just looking at her from a normal person's point of view. If she and Xiao Han were to be placed together, this peerless beauty would probably be overshadowed in an instant, and would look like a chaff. That's right, that's right. If it wasn't for young Master Yaki, I'm afraid young Master Zhe and I would have died without a doubt. The coffin-faced lackey following Zhang Jingze patted his chest as he spoke. He was cursing Qin Hao 10,000 times in his heart as a fierce look flashed in his eyes. I, Zhang Jingze, will never forget young Master Yaki's kindness. You are the kindest person in the world, so I will properly repay young Master Yaki. Now I hope that we arrived a step earlier than Qin Hao so we can quickly go back and plan. This time, I want my grandfather to personally make a move and kill Qin Hao. Before killing him, I want to crush his arms and legs and turn him into a cripple like me before throwing him into the sea. Zhang Jingze viciously said. Chapter 1106. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. An intense drama unfolded. A mere level 8 Yuan monarch ant doesn't need to trouble your elders. Wouldn't Qin Hao be reduced to ashes with a little effort? The young man named Young Master Yaki indifferently said as he lifted the chin of the beauty in his embrace. The woman giggled and her smile was like a peony, causing all the men at the harbor to stare at her. However, Qin Hao has a very powerful servant. Even a level 6 Yuan venerate like Yamamoto isn't his match. This person is at least a level 6 Yuan venerate. He might even be a level 7 Yuan venerate. Speaking of the old monster, Coffin Face was very wary and quickly reminded young Master Yaki. Level 7 Yuan venerate? Young Master Yaki frowned slightly but didn't panic. Instead, he pointed to the two middle-aged men behind him, one in black and one in white. My black-white double fiends are also level 7 Yuan Venerate. The two of them are good at working together. Let's teach that old servant a lesson about overestimating himself. Since I saved you, I will be a good person to the end. I, Li Yaqi, will have full authority to deal with Qin Hao. Young Master Yaqi is awesome. Moi. The woman with heavy makeup stood on her tiptoes and left a big lipstick mark on Li Yaqi's face. Thank you, young Master Yaqi. Zhang Jingze was moved to tears. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't move freely, he would have hugged young Master Yaqi's legs and knelt down. Of course, there was a price to pay for Li Yaqi to act so boldly. Zhang Jingze knew very well that he would have to ask the old fogies of his family to share some of the profits of Fair Mountain City with Li Yaqi. After all, the two of them had already discussed this matter on the ship. Saving someone wasn't for nothing. Of course, killing Qin Hao wasn't a waste of effort. Zhang Jingze understood all of this. So what if he had to share some of the profits of Fair Mountain City? Zhang Jingze didn't feel any heartache. He believed that his life was more important than money. Furthermore, establishing a relationship with Li Yaqi would be greatly beneficial to the future of the Zhang family. If he made a few powerful Yuan Venerate friends and returned to the family, the old men of the Zhang family would praise him as the second young master of the Zhang family. Let's go, quickly carry me back. I can't help but want to stir up trouble. With his confidence greatly boosted, Zhang Jingze ordered Coffin Face to carry him on his back and brought Li Yaqi and the rest back to the Zhang family. At this moment, he was deeply grateful to the dead Yamamoto. If old ghost Yamamoto hadn't given Zhang Jingze a protective talisman, he probably wouldn't have lasted until Li Yaqi's ship passed by. That protective talisman had temporarily saved his life. As for the dead Yamamoto, Zhang Jingze swore that he would build a grave for him. The Zhang family's third young master just left, and here comes the Zhang family's second young master. Second young master's condition doesn't look good. It seems like all his limbs are crippled. Could it be related to the group of people who threatened the Zhang clan's third young master? There's going to be a spectacular show today. Let's go, let's go. We can't miss this. Crash. Another large group of men from the docks ran towards the Zhang mansion. Zhang mansion. The main hall. Ha ha ha, bold and unrestrained laughter rang out continuously. Grandfather, father, your son blazed a path through all the obstacles and unleashed our Zhang family's cultivation technique. He overcame all the obstacles and advanced to the finals in one fell swoop. It's really a pity that you didn't get to see my impressive demeanor. In the main hall, two people sat at the head of the table. On the left was an old man in his 70s. He was the Zhang family's patriarch and was a level 8 Yuan Venerate. On the right was a middle-aged man with a square face. He was the current head of the Zhang family and the father of Zhang Jingze and Zhang Jingchen. He was a level 7 Yuan Venerate. The person who spoke was a young martialist who was about 28 years old and looked quite similar to Zhang Jingze and Zhang Jingchen. He was the eldest son of the Zhang family, Zhang Jingshan, who had advanced to the finals of the Emperor Martial competition. In fact, Zhang Jingshan had returned home with a large group of southern region martialists for 3 days. During these 3 days, he did not stop telling his grandfather and father about the Emperor Martial Grand Tournament's grand occasion without stopping. After listening, the elders were full of praise for Zhang Jingshan's performance. This had allowed the Zhang family to hold their heads high and leave their reputation in the Northern Territory. Given your son's cultivation, I could have fought 2 more rounds. Unfortunately, I encountered a tough opponent in the finals and was sent flying by Tsiogwa's punch. If it wasn't for that, I might have been able to enter the top 10. Because I can see that the top 10 contestants aren't much stronger than the children. It's just that I'm unlucky. Zhang Jingshan sighed in distress when he got to the exciting part of his story. The Zhang family's patriarch and patriarch sighed as well. As martialists, they had all gone through various competitions. They knew very well that luck was very important, even more important than one's own strength. Therefore, they didn't doubt Zhang Jingshan's story at all. So the champion of the 4 major competitions ended up in the hands of that exceptional genius? The Zhang family's patriarch couldn't help but ask. He was extremely envious of that exceptional genius. Becoming the champion was equivalent to marrying the daughter of a martial emperor. How glorious would it be to be a martial emperor's son-in-law? Why wasn't the son-in-law of Northern Liao's emperor Shao a descendant of the Zhang family? It was too hateful. The champion. Sigh. Zhang Jingshan continued to sigh and said reluctantly. He came from a shabby place in western Liang, a man named Qin Hao. This person was indeed something. He was actually able to last for so long against the East Continent's genius, Zhou Wudao. In fact, the person most likely to win the championship was Zhou Wudao. Grandfather, you may not know this, but this person was very powerful and terrifying. He was about the same age as me, but his combat strength was comparable to a 1-star martial emperor. Zhang Jingshan's emotions were very intense. The turbulent battle that day still made his blood boil. It wasn't difficult to see from his performance that he admired Zhou Wudao's strength more. He didn't admire Qin Hao. What? A monarch stage expert under the age of 30? This? The Zhang family's patriarch was extremely shocked. Zhang Jingshan's father also clutched his chest, as if he couldn't breathe. No. Grandfather, you misunderstood. Zhou Wudao's cultivation base hasn't reached the martial emperor level yet, but he is a dual-soul martialist. His second origin soul is extremely heaven-defying. It is one of the 9 sons of an ancient ferocious beast, Taotai. Taoya's appearance made millions of people tremble. All the sect masters were shocked. His aura was unparalleled. Zhou Wudao's cultivation base seems to have only reached the peak of the 6th level Yuan Venerate and is faintly close to the 7th level Yuan Venerate. Even so, he is still comparable to a 1-star martial emperor, Zhang Jingshan said with trepidation. Oh my God! The Zhang family's patriarch was so shocked that his voice trembled. He is not even a 7th level Yuan Venerate, yet he is comparable to a 1-star martial emperor. If he becomes a martial emperor, the Zhang family's patriarch didn't dare imagine such a terrifying scene. He is indeed a peerless genius from the East Continent. Although the southern region is beautiful and there is no lack of outstanding talents, there is still a big gap between us and the East Continent, the Zhang family's patriarch said. Zhang Jingshan nodded in agreement. Zhou Wudao is so powerful. How could the championship end up in the hands of a lowly Western Liang commoner? He must have used an unfair advantage and used despicable means. The Zhang family's patriarch said calmly. Chapter 1107. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin the mysterious Zheng clan. How could he defeat the peerless genius Zhou Wudao if he did not resort to underhanded means? Judging from the situation, that is indeed the case. Zhang Jingshan nodded as he recalled. Zhou Wudao summoned the Tao Tai's soul and his combat strength reached the cauldron point. That bottomless devouring almost killed Qin Hao. At the critical moment, an arrow flew out from the palace and penetrated the barrier set up by the imperial guards. The arrow was extremely powerful. The arrow's grade was obviously high. Qin Hao could not control it with his cultivation. There was an 80% chance that Emperor Shao was the one steering the arrow. That was why it could destroy the Taoya's original soul and scare Zhou Wudao away. After all, the relationship between Qin Hao and Princess Jingyue was not ordinary. It was reasonable for Shao Yi to cover for him. It's such a pity. It's unfair to Zhou Wudao. A martial emperor has no morals. If the old man meets Qin Hao, he will teach him a lesson. He will let him know what it means to be down to earth and take one step at a time. The Zhang clan's old ancestor roared. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, a stranger's foot stepped into the hall. The floor turned into powder and the house trembled. "Oh, I would like to see if you have the ability to teach others." Qin Hao stood with his hands behind his back. His white robe fluttered in the wind. He was like an emperor, intimidating the 3 generations of the Zhang clan. When he saw Qin Hao, Zhang Jingshan was shocked. Then, his face was filled with disbelief. He thought he was dreaming. "Speak of Qin Hao, and Qin Hao is here. What the hell? How dare you? How dare you?" After the shock, the Zhang clan's old ancestor and patriarch stood up angrily. They slammed their palms on the table, cracking the wood and breaking the cup in half. "Who are you? How dare you break into the Zhang clan? Why didn't the guards report you?" Men. The Zhang family's patriarch shouted. "Stop shouting, country bumpkin. When I entered, all the guards in your residence were knocked to the ground by me. I can turn them into corpses with a single thought." At this moment, the old demon and Xiao Han walked in with Zhang Jingchen. A wretched smile flashed across the old demon's face. He was trying to persuade the other party to behave. What? The Zhang family's patriarch was especially shocked. They had been discussing the Imperial Martial Arts tournament. Although they had been engrossed in their discussion, they had not paid much attention to what was going on in the residence. However, the old demon had managed to subdue the Zhang family's troops without batting an eyelid. "Chen, why are you here? Where's Jingzhe? Didn't you guys come back together? Who are these people?" Zhang Jingchen's father asked as he looked at Zhang Jingchen in surprise. Then, he pointed at Qin Hao. Plop! Before Zhang Jingchen could speak, Zhang Jingshan, who had entered the finals of the Imperial Martial Arts tournament, knelt down and bowed to Qin Hao in fear. "Greetings to the champion of the Imperial Martial Arts tournament, Prince Consort Qin Hao." "Greetings to Jing." Zhang Jingshan was about to call out to Xiao Han. "Princess Jingyue." However, when Xiao Han shot him a cold look, Zhang Jingshan immediately swallowed his words. He did not know why Daliao's prince consort and the martial emperor's beloved daughter did not stay in Beijiang for their wedding, but came to the southern region on the other side of the continent, and even appeared in the Zhang family's residence. However, Zhang Jingshan could tell that Xiao Han did not want him to reveal his identity. At the same time, Zhang Jingchen was also shocked. On the boat, Coffin Face had said that Qin Hao did not even pass the preliminaries. How did he become the champion in the blink of an eye? Who was lying? Obviously, Zhang Jingshan, who had entered the finals of the Imperial Martial Arts tournament, was more convincing. After all, Zhang Jingshan had watched the entire ceremony from beginning to end. The champion of the Imperial Martial Arts competition? You're the little bastard who used despicable means to win. Grandpa Zhang Jingshan hurriedly tugged at the patriarch's pants and almost tore them off. However, it also made the patriarch come to his senses. He coughed awkwardly and said, "Ahem, so you're Qin Hao." Although he did not have a good impression of Qin Hao, since it was a foregone conclusion and he had become the martial emperor's son-in-law, the patriarch did not dare to go overboard. Daliao's prince consort? What was going on? Tell me clearly. Also, where did your second brother go? The patriarch of the Zhang family looked at Zhang Jingze again with some pressure in his eyes. 6 days ago, he received a signal from Zhang Jingze saying that he would return to the family in a few days. Now, he only saw his third son, but not his second son. Father, don't panic. Young Master Qin Hao is here because Zhang Jingchen stuttered and recounted how he was rescued by Qin Hao at sea. However, he did not tell him about Zhang Jingze's death. After going ashore, my second brother hurriedly went to the Drunken Flower brothel. He should be back tonight, Zhang Jingchen said. The Drunken Flower brothel was a place where men went to have fun. It was also the most expensive place in Pingshan City. That good-for-nothing, unfilial son. The patriarch of the Zhang family cursed angrily. When his son came back, He did not even see his father and grandfather and went to live a life of drunken stupor. Qin Hao was slightly stunned. At this time, Zhang Jingchen was still hiding this matter from his elders. It seemed that he was deliberately stalling for time, so that he and Xiao Han could leave the Zhang mansion safely. Thank you for Daliao's prince consort. Otherwise, my 2 grandsons would have been buried at sea. Don't leave today. Let me welcome you and express my sincerity. The patriarch of the Zhang family smiled happily and changed his opinion of Qin Hao slightly. However, the disdain in his bones still existed. Prince consort, why did you suddenly come to the southern region? At this time, Zhang Jingshan stood up and asked respectfully. The Zhang family was not qualified to know the truth about the appearance of the South Pole Divine Palace's sacred sword. Like ordinary warriors, they all thought that the sacred sword emblem that day was an anomaly caused by a powerful person. Just for fun, Qin Hao chuckled. With Xiao Han standing beside him, Zhang Jingshan naturally understood that the couple had come to the southern region for their honeymoon. Zhang Jingshan could not help but be envious. Besides that, I want to ask you about a person. Do you know one of the participants of the competition, Zheng Qinqi, who came from the southern territory with you? Qin Hao restrained his smile and asked seriously. Zheng Qinqi? Zhang Jingshan tried hard to recall. Suddenly, a clear image appeared in his mind. It was the spectacular sea battle between Zheng Qinqi and Yi Shuihan. However, Zhang Jingshan immediately shook his head. I don't know him. Although we are both from the southern region is too big. That young Master Zheng's strength is amazing. How could a small fry like me, who is only at 3rd gear, be qualified to get close to a top 10 contestant? Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't have the honor and opportunity, Zhang Jingshan said with a long face. A moment ago, he had been boasting and exaggerating. Now that he was facing the champion of the Imperial Martial Competition, he immediately revealed his true self and looked embarrassed. Look at this. Qin Hao handed the token that Zheng Qinqi had given to Zhang Jingshan. Based on Zhang Jingshan's ability, he was indeed not qualified to be acquainted with a prodigy like Zheng Qinqi. However, not knowing him did not mean that he did not recognize the emblem of the Zheng family. After all, the emblem of a powerful top family was the symbol of the entire family. Its deterrence and prestige were far greater than an individual's influence. Chapter 1108. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Restless even chickens and dogs, let me take a look. Let me see what kind of person Prince Consort Qin is looking for after crossing the sea for thousands of miles. The Zhang family head stretched out his hand with interest. Helping Qin Hao find the person was a good way to thank him for saving his son's life. Zhang Jingshan handed the token over. Father, you have traveled extensively and are very experienced. Perhaps you will recognize this item. The Zhang family head nodded and looked at it carefully. The front of the token was very simple. There was only a single eye-catching word, Zheng. The back of the token was very extraordinary. The back of the token depicted a vast ocean. There was a sturdy ship that looked down on the world sailing on the sea, crushing the ocean beneath it. It had a domineering aura that seemed to be able to swallow the waves and conquer the 4 seas. Furthermore, a blurry figure stood at the bow of the sturdy ship. This figure exuded a strong sense of oppression. He stood on the ship and the sea, looking down at the world. Just his aura alone was enough to shock one's mind. What a domineering clan emblem! The Zhang family head couldn't help but exclaim. He had never seen such an arrogant and domineering clan emblem. In comparison, many royal families of the southern region's mid-sized empires, and even ancient clans with long bloodlines didn't have clan emblems as arrogant as the one in his hand. Family head, do you recognize it? Qin Hao asked hurriedly. No. The Zhang family head shook his head. Even though I know half of the southern region, I don't recognize this token. I'm afraid the origin of this token is far beyond what I can reach. I'm very sorry. Qin Hao was disappointed by the Zhang family head's response, and was about to return the token. Let old man take a look too. The Zhang family patriarch snatched the token and started sizing it up. His expression was the same as the Zhang family head's. At first, he was shocked, and helpless. Old man has been in the southern region for decades and has seen all kinds of big scenes. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I couldn't even recognize someone else's clan emblem. I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Qin Hao frowned immediately. The Zhang family patriarch didn't know where Jing Qingqi's clan came from. A level 8 Yuan Venerate wasn't considered low and had the qualifications to roam the world. No matter where he went, there would be a seat for him. Even though I don't recognize it, the character Jing is written on its front. The place with the most Jing surname in the southern domain is. The Zhang clan's patriarch seemed to have recalled something, and a clue flashed through his mind. Father, grandfather, come and save me. Heavens, I've been crippled by someone. He's simply looking down on father and grandfather's dignity like dirt. He's challenging the bottom line of our Zhang clan. I want him to die a horrible death. Suddenly, a familiar cry came from the courtyard. It's Jing Zhe. The Zhang family's patriarch was stunned for a moment, then he followed the Zhang family's ancestor out of the door like a shooting star. The scene that entered their eyes caused their tiger bodies to suddenly tremble. The fury in their hearts soared. Zhang Jing's body was in tatters and his clothes were full of bite marks. He was carried on someone's back and looked extremely miserable. Clearly, his limbs were crippled. His face was already deformed, and a lot of his flesh and blood had been eaten away by the school of fish. But from the outline of his face, he was the second son of the Zhang family. Moreover, the coffin-faced young man carrying the second son of the Zhang family was the son of Butcher Ma next door. Oh no! Zhang Jingchen, who was in the room, was delighted at first when he heard this miserable cry. Then, his expression changed abruptly. Qin Hao and Xiao Han also frowned. The second son of the Zhang family was really lucky that he wasn't dead. Great Master Zhang, Uncle Zhang, quickly saved the second son. He's too miserable. The coffin-faced young man wiped his snot and placed the second son of the Zhang family on the ground. Tears streamed down his face, as if he was more miserable than if his own father had died. My son. The Zhang family's patriarch's heart clenched when he saw his son in such a miserable state. He quickly squatted down and stuffed elixir pills into the second son's mouth. Didn't you just separate from Jingchen? How could you be crippled like this in the blink of an eye? Who was so inhumane to deal such a heavy blow to the descendant of the Zhang family? Could it be the Liao family of Fair Mountain City? Good. Old man will flatten the Liao family and massacre their entire family. Men, bring me the dragon head blade that can split the sky and earth. The Zhang family's patriarch roared. His intense purple level 8 Yuan Venerate aura erupted and his voice reverberated like a tiger's roar. He believed that Zhang Jingze had been injured by another family in the same city. The Liao family often had conflicts with the Zhang family. He wanted to take revenge as he spoke. Oh, it's not the Liao family. It's a nobody from the southern region called Qin Hao, Zhang Jingze cried. Qin Hao. The Zhang family's patriarch was shocked. He suddenly turned around and looked into the room. Second brother. At that moment, Zhang Jingchen walked out with a guilty look on his face. Hee. You can't die even after your limbs are crippled. It seems like you, Zhang Jingze, must have burned a lot of incense in your previous life. Qin Hao led everyone out. Qin Hao, you actually came to my house? Ha. There's a path to heaven but you don't want to take it. There's no door to the Zhang family, so you're really daring. Upon seeing his enemy, Zhang Jing's hateful gaze could tear Qin Hao to pieces. What the hell is going on? Jingchen, are you hiding something from us? The patriarch of the Zhang family roared, and his father's dignity surged toward Zhang Jingchen. I'm sorry, father. Actually, this is what happened. Zhang Jingchen had no choice but to tell the truth. Then, he knelt on the ground and said, This is not young Master Qin's fault. It was my second brother who was rude first. I hope father and grandfather can be fair. Zhang Jingchen, how dare you talk nonsense in front of father and grandfather? It's obvious that Qin Hao's two maids saw that I was handsome and dashing, so they seduced me first. I was very resistant, but they were so bold that they dragged me into the room and wanted to force themselves on me. At that time, Qin Hao happened to see me. He indiscriminately injured me. If it weren't for the fact that I didn't fight back, how could he have been my opponent? After he crippled me, he looked down on the Zhang family, saying that the men of the Zhang family were as weak as dung and couldn't withstand a single blow. Even grandfather and father weren't worthy of carrying Qin Hao's shoes. What about you? Not only did you not save me, but you were also afraid of death. You knelt down to Qin Hao and brought him home to lie to father and grandfather. Zhang Jingchen, you really have a vicious heart. We are brothers whose blood is thicker than water. You broke second brother's heart. To think that I was so good to you when we were young. Oh God. Zhang Jing's voice was full of tears. His glib tongue was superb at twisting the truth. His cries attracted his mother's attention. When Zhang Jing's mother saw her son in such a miserable state, she hugged him and burst into tears. The scene fell into chaos. It's not like that. I didn't. At that time, I wanted to save you. Zhang Jingchen hurriedly tried to explain. Unknowingly, he had already been tied to Qin Hao. If he couldn't prove his innocence, then he would be despised by everyone in the future. He would be a scum who betrayed his brothers to survive. From then on, he would lose his status in the family. He might even be kicked out of the Zhang mansion and fend for himself. Don't say any more. You're just a dumb scholar. You're no match for your second brother, Zhang Jingze. Qin Hao sighed. He was very sympathetic to Zhang Jingchen's current situation. It's all your fault. I let you go long ago, but you refused. Mother, you have to believe me. Zhang Jingchen knelt in front of his mother. Slap. His mother slapped him heavily. With tears in her eyes, she said hoarsely, Are you still human? From now on, our relationship as mother and son is severed. Bastard, get out of the Zhang mansion. My poor Jingze. After saying that, she hugged Zhang Jingze and cried bitterly. Qin Hao, you little bastard. You've stirred up so much trouble in my Zhang mansion. Don't think that you can leave safely today. Chapter 1109. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio 2 Benefactors. Then what do you want? Qin Hao's expression did not change. He sneered in his heart and took a step forward fearlessly. If they could not resolve this peacefully, they could only fight. Even if they left, they had to prove the truth and clear Zhang Jingchen's name. Grandfather, don't be angry. There must be some misunderstanding. Can't we all sit down and talk nicely? Zhang Jingshan saw that Qin Hao was about to attack and anxiously tried to dissuade the patriarch. First of all, his grandfather was no match for Qin Hao, the champion of the imperial martial competition. Furthermore, as the elder brother, Zhang Jingshan was very familiar with his two younger brothers' characters. His third brother had been pure and kind since he was young. He did not like to fight with others. On the other hand, his second brother was a scheming traitor. He was very cunning and lecherous. It was clear who was lying if one calmed down and used one's buttocks to think. Even if Xiao Han and Kai could not stand loneliness, they would not fall for Zhang Jingchen, right? She was the daughter of a martial emperor. She could find any man of peerless beauty. Half of the young martial artists in the continent were fighting for her. To think that Zhang Jingchen had the guts to say that. At the very least, Zhang Jingshan believed that he, as the eldest brother, could crush dozens of Zhang Jingchen. Get out of my way. No one can stop me today. The patriarch was blinded by anger. He pushed Zhang Jingshan aside and pointed at Qin Hao. I know that your identity is very special, but don't think that you can act so fearlessly just because you're someone else's son-in-law. In Fair Mountain City, I am the king of hell. Even if I can't kill you, I can cripple your limbs and make you kneel in front of the Zhang residence and kowtow 10,000 times to atone for your sins. Old man is more than capable of doing that. If not for the fact that he was afraid that killing Qin Hao would attract Martial Emperor Zhao's revenge and implicate the entire family, the patriarch would not have bothered to speak nonsense. No, I want him dead. I'll only be satisfied when he's dead. Furthermore, Zhang Jingzi gritted his teeth as he lay on the ground. His hatred for Qin Hao had seeped into his bones. He glared fiercely at Xiao Han and K. as he said, furthermore, these two SL*TS will have to pay the price as well. After grandfather has executed Qin Hao, please hand them over to me so that I can deal with them. Since they accused me of molesting them, I will take them as my concubines. They will serve me for the rest of their lives and become the Zhang residence's most lowly servants. All right, I'll agree to this. Qin Hao now. Of you, Qin Hao, Qin Feng, Yang, Xiao Yang is Xiao Han? Xiao Han, Xiao Han, Xiao, Studio. Xiao Han, Xiao Studio. Xiao. This is the greatest gift that the Zhang clan can give you for the sake of your father-in-law. Master Zhang to Zhang Masters Zhang. Xiao Zhang Yi Xiao Han was Zhang was B? Zhang was to kill? B Xiao however, he had the final say in leaving Qin Hao's maidservants to be his son's concubines. To him, Xiao Han and K. to be his descendants' concubines was akin to burning incense to the gods. Ah! Qin Hao laughed. He raised his head and laughed. Anger was brewing in his heart. His eyes turned cold as he said in a low voice, "What if I don't?" Would he let Dendi cripple his own limbs and kowtow 10,000 times to someone? What a joke! Furthermore, leaving Xiao Han and K. alive was even more impossible. It's not up to you. The patriarch of the Zhang family did not want to say more. His face crumbled as he decisively attacked. His palm was filled with purple primal chi as it pressed heavily on Qin Hao's shoulder. It looked like he was going to crush Qin Hao's arms and end up like Zhang Jingzi. Wait, you can't touch this person because he is my prey. This young master's hobby is to uphold justice. Punishing evil for the people of the world is this young master's duty. I will take Qin Hao's life. Everyone was stunned. A frivolous voice with a hint of nobility came from outside the mansion. Everyone was stunned. They saw a young man in his early 20s, who was wearing a brocade robe and holding a paper fan. He had a frivolous smile on his face and a woman with heavy makeup in his arms. Accompanied by two middle-aged attendants, he swaggered into the Zhang mansion and walked into the field without any restraint. Who do you think you are? Qin Hao was slightly stunned as he spoke coldly. He did not know this person and had just arrived in the southern mountain range. It was impossible for him to have a grudge with anyone. However, this young man, who had no grudge with him and was a complete stranger, had belittled Qin Hao the moment he appeared. He had even praised his own moral character, which made Qin Hao feel extremely disgusted. The patriarch of the Zhang family also looked at Li Yaqi, who had brazenly barged into the Zhang mansion. His expression seemed to be saying, "Who do you think you are? None of you deserve to know my identity." Li Yaqi's handsome face flashed with anger as he snorted coldly. Then, he looked past Qin Hao and at Xiao Han's group, trying to find the terrifying green hat Yuan Venerate mentioned by the coffin-faced young man. After all, the old demon was the only person in Qin Hao's camp who could threaten Li Yaqi. However, when he saw the old demon's somewhat wretched, indescribable, and filthy face below the green hat, Luo Yunyang became bored. Li Yaqi became dull, and his gaze began to focus on Xiao Han. Li Yaqi was a little absent-minded as he looked at her. He was secretly shocked. No wonder Zhang Jingze had repaid kindness with enmity and stolen the ship. Xiao Han was really too beautiful. She was the most beautiful woman Li Yaqi had ever seen in the world. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever met. Even without any ruse or jewelry, Xiao Han's simple clothes exuded a pure aura, as well as the spiritual energy flowing between her eyebrows, was enough to make Li Yaqi's heart race. She will be my woman in the future. This thought appeared in Li Yaqi's mind without any hesitation, and it was incomparably firm. He felt like he had found the love of his life. Young master. Seeing this, the woman in his arms with heavy makeup quickly poked the absent-minded Li Yaqi with her arm. Her eyes were filled with jealousy, as if they were poisonous thorns, and fiercely stabbed Xiao Han's face. Xiao Han gave her a strong sense of crisis. She was afraid that she would lose favor. Oh! Let me make a grand recommendation on behalf of grandfather and father. Zhang Jingze, who was unable to move, turned to Li Yaqi and said, "This young master is, in short, he is our Zhang family's benefactor. With the help of this benefactor, our Zhang family will definitely soar. This benefactor saved my fragile life when I fell into the vast sea and was certain to die. He is the kindest person in the world. Grandfather, father, you can't neglect our benefactor." Feeling the deterrence from Li Yaqi's eyes, Zhang Jingze didn't dare to reveal his background. That background was too powerful in the southern region. The Zhang family couldn't afford to offend it. Grandson's benefactor? Oh, please accept a bow from this old man. Accept a bow from me. The Zhang family patriarch and the patriarch bowed at the same time, cupping their fists and bowing to Li Yaqi with a grateful look. Grandfather, father, young Master Qin saved us first. He is also our benefactor, but why are you treating young Master Qin so unfairly? Zhang Jingchen roared with righteous indignation. Shut up. From today onwards, you have lost your identity as the young master of the Zhang family. Men, break Zhang Jingchen's legs and throw him into the backyard's horse cellar. Not driving you out of the family and leaving you to fend for yourself is already the old man's greatest kindness. Jingchen, don't blame grandfather for being heartless. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. Chapter 1110. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. Li Yaqi's cultivation technique. At the same time, a few fierce-looking servants came out with clubs in their hands. Why did I miss a few bastards? The old demon was stunned and shook his head in dissatisfaction. A drop of blood appeared on his finger. The drop of blood turned into a bloody mist and entered the nostrils of the servants. Instantly, the eyes of the servants rolled back as they successively fell to the ground with a thump, and they ceaselessly twitched while strands of white foam suffused their mouths. The Zhang family patriarch clenched his fists in anger. With me around, no one can touch Zhang Jingchen. Qin Hao shielded Zhang Jingchen, who was trembling with fear and whose face was pale, behind him. Ha ha! With me around, you won't be able to show off. Li Yaqi waved his paper fan and casually swept out a purple light towards Qin Hao. Purple Yuan Qi represented a Yuan Venerate. Li Yaqi was also a Yuan Venerate powerhouse. However, based on his aura, he was the weakest existence among the Yuan Venerates. He was only a first-level Yuan Venerate. Even so, he felt that it was enough to completely crush Qin Hao, who was a level 8 Yuan monarch. Bang! However, the outcome surprised Li Yaqi. With a sweep of his palm, Qin Hao obliterated the incoming first-level Yuan Venerate's radiance. This display of power also shocked the Zhang family's patriarch and patriarch. Qin Hao, who had won the Imperial Martial Championship through the back door, wasn't as weak as they had thought. You have some skills? Li Yaqi said in surprise as he put away his frivolous expression. Qin Hao was a rare martialist who could challenge opponents of a higher level. He had blocked a Yuan Venerate's attack. I have more than just a few tricks up my sleeve. Qin Hao hooked his finger at Li Yaqi, his eyes filled with contempt. Go away. Li Yaqi pushed away the gorgeous lady in his arms and said seriously, I miscalculated and gave you a chance to show off. However, the attack just now wasn't even 20% of my full strength. Let me show you what I'm about to do. After he finished speaking, a violent surge of primordial qi surged from his body. Another ball of purple light gathered on his paper fan. Li Yaqi waved his arm violently. This purple light, which was 3 times larger than the previous one, whistled through the air and instantly blasted towards Qin Hao's face. Puff! A crisp sound rang out. Just like before, Qin Hao casually swept out with his palm, and Li Yaqi's second attack was completely obliterated. What? This time, Li Yaqi was slightly shocked. The second time he attacked, he raised his cultivation to 80%, but it was still easily neutralized by his opponent. Do you want to try again? Qin Hao smiled and looked at Li Yaqi's mediocre performance as if he was looking at a clown. Young master, this person is a little strange. Let me capture him. A black-robed middle-aged man with a slanted face stepped out from behind. Qin Hao gave him an unfathomable feeling, and he was worried that Li Yaqi might not be his match. But Li Yaqi turned around and slapped the black-robed middle-aged man's face. Are you looking down on me? No, that's not what I meant. I'm just worried that he might accidentally hurt you. Pa! Li Yaqi gave the other party another slap. He spat and said angrily, Could it be that your two meanings are different? Get lost. If I can't even deal with a mere level 8 Yuan monarch, what right do I have to fight with those people? This outburst scared the black-robed middle-aged man into shutting his mouth and retreating obediently. Li Yaqi took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He squinted his eyes and his expression turned serious as he stared at Qin Hao. All right, you have made a fool of me twice. However, there will not be a third chance. All of a sudden, as soon as he finished his words, a mysterious and unpredictable aura mixed with his purple flame aura started to spin crazily around Li Yaqi like a small tornado. As it revolved, the quality of the primordial qi in Li Yaqi's meridians improved tremendously. The primordial qi of a level 1 Yuan Venerate was vaguely comparable to that of a level 2 Yuan Venerate. In an instant, his aura blew the sand and pebbles in the Zhang mansion. Leaves and pebbles were sent flying everywhere. What an impressive cultivation technique! Li Yaqi's current strength still posed no threat to Qin Hao. In fact, Qin Hao could take his life with a snap of his fingers. However, a cultivation technique that could improve the quality of a martialist's primordial qi inevitably surprised Dendi. To date, Qin Hao had only seen the effect of improving the quality of one's primordial qi with the inextinguishable samsara technique. The inextinguishable samsara technique was a divine-grade cultivation technique. Go to hell! Soaring qi! Li Yaqi roared hoarsely as a surge of smoke spewed out from his back. His expression was tense as he moved like the wind and rushed toward Qin Hao. His fan had disappeared at some point, and his palms were wrapped in a layer of transparent primordial qi. The strange thing was that the primordial qi in his palms was still purple. I don't care what strange cultivation technique you use. Defeat is the only outcome in front of me. Without hesitation, Qin Hao struck out with his Tathagata divine palm and single-handedly fought against the purple primordial qi that had gathered between Li Yaqi's palms. Boom! A deafening explosion was heard. Upon contact, countless stone slabs were shattered by the primordial qi of the two of them. The aftermath of the collision surged toward Qin Hao and Li Yaqi like a layer of razor-sharp blade light that severed a few ashen trees in the Zhang mansion. The various flower pots placed on the flower beds exploded one after another, and a rockery was sliced in half. Smoke and dust rose into the air as the 6 houses in the surroundings collapsed. Li Yaqi raised his head and spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt as if he was facing an unshakable mountain. When Qin Hao's incomparably vigorous energy vibrated over, Li Yaqi was like a kite with its string cut. He was sent flying. "Young master! Don't be so arrogant!" When the black-white double malevolence saw this, they leaped into the air and unleashed their level 7 Yuan Venerate cultivation without holding back. One of them went to catch Li Yaqi while the other attacked Qin Hao. His palm was aimed at Qin Hao's head. Level 7 Yuan Venerate. The faces of the Zhang family patriarch and patriarch Zhang changed. They hadn't realized that the 2 unassuming servants behind Li Yaqi were such powerful existences. The Zhang family patriarch's cultivation base was only at the beginner level 8 Yuan Venerate. The strong were respected. This was the way of the martial world. At the moment, the Zhang family was filled with respect for the black-white double malevolence. Oh, the master can't beat them, so it's time for the servants to take the stage. Let the second master show you a move or two. Blood, soul, death, seeking palm. Chapter 11:11. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. An exception was made. He even sent the other party flying into the sky with a single palm strike. The middle-aged man in white robes let out a strange cry as his body floated into the clouds. It was a spectacular sight. The old demon hadn't expected that the other party would be so weak. How could he miss the opportunity to show off before he even used his ultimate technique? He cursed and unfurled his yuan wings to give chase. After unfurling his yuan wings, the old demon looked rather impressive. Each of his wings was 2 meters wide and 8 meters long. They were shaped like scimitars and were condensed from fresh blood. They looked like a sheet of bloody light and were extremely intimidating. In the middle of each yuan wing, there was a yellow figure that looked like an eye. From afar, it looked like a moth pouncing forward. Suddenly, the sound of intense collisions echoed in the clouds. The violent sounds made the old demon sound like a criminal who had just been released from prison. He was extremely impulsive. It was also mixed with someone's painful screams that sounded like someone's anus being torn apart. "Blackie, come and help me. Let's work together to kill this ferocious monster in the green hat." After exchanging blows for less than 3 breaths, the middle-aged man in white robes couldn't withstand the old demon's frenzied ravaging and urgently called for help. The middle-aged man in black robes, who had helped Li Yaqi land on the ground, rushed toward the clouds without stopping. However, it didn't take long for the blood-curdling screams from above to split into 2. Even the frequency of the screams was identical. What a powerful force! The Zhang family patriarch raised his head and broke out in a cold sweat. The cultivation base of Li Yaqi's slave was shocking enough. What was even more shocking was Qin Hao's slave. He could clearly sense that the bloody aura of the old demon was getting stronger and stronger as the fight went on. His potential seemed to have no limit. On the other hand, the black-white double demons were restrained by the bloody aura. The old demon's cultivation base wasn't as strong as the Zhang family patriarch's, as he was only a mid-level level 7 Yuan Venerate. However, he was fighting 1 against 2 like a madman. Not only was he not at a disadvantage, but he was also torturing his 2 opponents until they were better off dead. This was really terrifying. At this moment, the Zhang family's patriarch and Zhang family's ancestor no longer dared to underestimate Qin Hao. "Don't just stand there, our battle isn't over yet." Qin Hao walked towards Li Yaqi step by step. He was not worried about the old demon. After all, the old demon had not even used his source spirit. Seeing Qin Hao getting closer and closer, Li Yaqi's heart was extremely nervous, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Especially when Qin Hao's foot really stepped in front of him, Li Yaqi couldn't bear the pressure brought by Qin Hao and completely lost his fighting spirit. He was so scared that he fell to the ground and raised his head in panic, his eyes full of fear. "You're not even qualified to make me draw my sword." Qin Hao smiled faintly. He stood tall and straight like an unshakable mountain, looking down at the defeated man beneath his feet. His eyes were filled with indifference and contempt. In Qin Hao's eyes, Li Yaqi was nothing more than a clown who made a fool of himself, a clown who brought shame upon himself. He was so insignificant. This sort of gaze, the smile of disdain on the corners of Qin Hao's mouth, and Qin Hao's attitude of looking down upon Li Yaqi. Every single action of Qin Hao struck deeply at Li Yaqi's heart, and it trampled on the dignity he took pride in and crushed it into worthless scraps. But Li Yaqi was powerless to resist. He clenched his fists, feeling as if the entire world had stopped. There was nothing in his eyes except for this young martial artist who was mocking him, as well as those words that echoed in Li Yaqi's ears, those words that he would never forget in his life, that he would never forget until his death, that were completely branded into his bones. "You're not even qualified to make me draw my sword." Under such a strong impact, Li Yaqi's eyes were bloodshot. He held his head with both hands and desperately screamed, as if he had gone mad. "Your mind is so weak, it will be difficult for you to become a great person." Qin Hao shook his head and prepared to end this person with a single palm. However, in the next second, Qin Hao made a puzzling move. He decisively gave up on Li Yaqi and used the water wind step. Like an afterimage, he suddenly attacked Xiao Han. At that moment, the woman with heavy makeup that Li Yaqi had brought along had stealthily approached Xiao Han while no one was paying attention. Suddenly, she raised her hand and sprinkled a large amount of yellow powder. The yellow powder emitted a pungent stench as soon as it came into contact with the air. Zhang Jingshan, who was closer, almost died on the spot from the stench. He immediately mobilized his yuan qi and formed a protective aura around his body to resolve the crisis. Zhang Jingshan was a contestant who had made it to the finals of the Emperor Martial competition. A first-level yuan venerate was not considered low. He had almost suffocated to death before the yellow powder had even touched him. Clearly, the yellow powder sprinkled by the woman with heavy makeup was really powerful. It was a rare and extremely vicious poison. Based on the smell in the air, Qin Hao could even tell what kind of poison had been used to mix the yellow powder. Every single one of those poisons could be said to be extremely poisonous. Golden Bell protection, open for me. Qin Hao did not hesitate. He had even forgotten that Xiao Han had the ability to protect himself. Before he even arrived, he had already conjured the indestructible samsara art and used the defensive technique of the Great Void Cauldron on Xiao Han and Kei. At the same time, the yellow powder that filled the sky fell like rain and engulfed the two girls. "Beautiful women, you all deserve to die." The woman with heavy makeup cursed mournfully as she pointed at Xiao Han and Kei, who had been engulfed by the powder. At that moment, she felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. She was no longer worried that Li Yaqi would fall in love with these two girls. She was also not worried that she would fall out of favor again. In fact, she even smiled. However, suddenly, a golden sacred light shot up from the falling yellow powder. It surged violently and washed away the powder completely, revealing Xiao Han and Kei, who were safe and sound. As the golden sacred light spread, the yellow powder that had been released from the Zhang mansion was also purified. At that moment, everyone could faintly see that Xiao Han and Kei seemed to be protected by a golden bell-shaped cover. Moreover, the two girls were at a loss. They could not understand what had happened in that instant. How could this be? The woman with heavy makeup covered her mouth in shock. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. What she had thrown out was an 8th-grade supreme poison. Even the black-white double ghosts dared to underestimate this poison. What kind of power could be so strong that it could repel her poison and purify it? Whoosh! At that moment, the sound of something breaking through the wind came from behind. The woman with heavy makeup sensed danger approaching and turned around. Splat! A blinding light flashed in front of her. The woman with heavy makeup seemed to see a figure fly past her. It seemed to be the white-haired youth who had severely injured young Master Yaki. It was him who had ruined her plans. The woman with heavy makeup wanted to curse, but only then did she realize that she could not speak. In the middle of her throat, there was a finger-sized bloody hole. Along with the intense burning pain, the hole continued to expand until it burned through her entire neck. I, Qin Hao, have never killed a woman. You are the first. Qin Hao was too lazy to look at the vicious woman behind him. He removed the golden bell protection and looked at Xiao Han anxiously. He asked with concern, "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? You made me worried just now." Xiao Han smiled gently and shook her head. She held Qin Hao's hands and said, "Idiot." Plop! With the sound of a head falling, the woman with heavy makeup fell to the ground and died. Xiao Qian. Chapter 11-12. A disaster originally, when he saw the heavily made-up woman sprinkle the incomparably precious yellow powder. He wanted to curse and even beat her up. Unfortunately, even if Li Yaqi cursed now, she would never hear it. But at this time there was a loud explosion. A tattered figure fell from the sky and heavily smashed into the bottom of Li Yaqi's feet. It was one of the black and white double demons that had surrounded the old demon, the black-robed middle-aged man. The black-robed middle-aged man had lost an arm, his left abdomen was pierced, and one of his eyes was missing. But he did not care about his injuries. Instead, he crazily crawled up with blood flowing out of his mouth. Using what little strength he had left, he heavily pushed Li Yaqi out of the Zhang mansion. "Master, quickly run. These people are not people we can touch. Quickly run away." After he finished speaking, a black energy condensed between his palms. The black energy was not Yuan Qi, but a special martial skill. "Chaos Calamity, Old White, let us be loyal." Boom! The black-robed middle-aged man pushed the black energy in his palms into the sky. At this time, the clouds in the sky had already been scattered by the Yuan Qi, revealing the white-robed middle-aged man and the old demon fighting. The white-robed middle-aged man did not look much better than the black-robed middle-aged man. His body was covered in wounds, and one of his legs was missing. On the other hand, the old demon's body was filled with blood energy. His aura was still incomparably strong, and he was not injured at all. However, as the black-robed middle-aged man pushed a large black energy ball into the sky, the old demon's expression became unprecedentedly serious. At the same time, the white-robed middle-aged man roared. His palms changed, and the path he used was exactly the same as the black-robed middle-aged man. But what he pushed out was not black energy, but rather a dense white smoke that was like flour. When the black energy flew over and intertwined with the white smoke, the two turned into an illusory black and white ghost shadow. The ghost shadow was over 20 feet tall, standing in the sky. The ghost shadow crossed its arms and charged at the old demon, sending out a cross-shaped light slash. The cross-shaped light slash wildly rotated at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. Like a meat grinder, it instantly attacked the old demon. "Green Hat Source Spirit, go for me!" The old demon formed a seal with his hands and bared his fangs. Blue veins popped out on his face as he gathered all the strength in his body to stimulate his source spirit. He knew very well that what the black-white double malevolent duo had used was an extremely rare fusion technique on the continent. Its power was not to be underestimated. The black-white double ghosts were beginner-level 7th-level Yuan venerates. The power of their fusion technique could reach the level of a 9th level Yuan Venerate or even kill a 9th level Yuan Venerate. The old demon had to attack with all his might. The pointed green hat on his head, which looked like a triangle, emitted a dazzling green light. In the green light, the hat kept expanding and turned into the shape of the sky-swallowing cauldron. Just like when Dugu Xianshao covered Qin Hao and refined him in the wasteland, it swallowed the cross-shaped light slash that Ghost Shadow swept over. Rumble. Poochie poochie poochie, after a trembling sound. The sound of something shattering was heard from the inside of the green hat that had swallowed the cross-shaped light slash. In less than 2 breaths, the old demon's green hat source spirit had been torn into pieces by the cross-shaped light slash and turned into specks of light before disappearing. Then, the attack landed heavily on the old demon's chest. The old demon spat out a mouthful of blood as he was shaken like a cannonball. He crashed into several tall buildings in the city and was drowned in smoke. The black-white double ghosts were even worse off. After using their ultimate technique, they suffered a backlash from the old demon's green hat source spirit and exploded into pieces right in front of everyone's eyes. Not even their souls remained. Black-white double ghosts. Liyaki let out an unprecedented cry of agony as he witnessed this hot-blooded scene of mutual destruction. He had already been pushed out of the Zhang mansion by the black-robed middle-aged man before he died. It had to be said that the black-white double ghosts were very loyal people who deserved to be respected. However, for some reason, when Liyaki got the chance to escape, he unexpectedly discovered that someone was hugging his leg. What was even more outrageous was that the person hugging him was actually the Zhang family's second son. Perhaps it was because Zhang Jingze had swallowed the bone-healing pill that his father had given him and regained some of his mobility. At this critical moment, it allowed him to release his endless potential. His arms were hugging him so tightly that Liyaki felt as if his legs were about to break. He couldn't help but let out a pitiful cry. "Don't abandon me. I beg you to take me with you. If I stay, I will be killed by Qin Hao." Zhang Jingze raised his panicked face and said, "Die for me." Liyaki ruthlessly sent out a palm and heavily smashed into Zhang Jingze's head. His skull cracked and his origin energy completely destroyed his opponent's meridians. Surnamedly, "I'll stab your father." Zhang Jingze never would have thought that Liyaki, who had just vowed to take care of everything for him, would actually kill him. At this moment, Zhang Jingze's strength was exhausted. His arms loosened and he fell to the ground. "My son." The Zhang family head let out a loud cry and flew over to catch the corpse. "Want to leave?" Qin Hao's heart inexplicably trembled. There was an inexplicable emotion that warned him not to let Liyaki leave alive. Immediately, the red lotus fire spirit revolved and formed a revolving sky slash above his head. He raised his hand and attacked Liyaki. Qin Hao's cultivation was above the black-white double ghost. The red lotus revolving sky slash was launched later but arrived first. It turned into a soaring fire dragon and caught up to Liyaki in a flash. At this moment, Liyaki once again felt Qin Hao's strength from the fire dragon. It was unshakable and even unsurpassable strength. Facing the fire dragon that was close at hand, the fire dragon was like an emperor. It was also looking at Liyaki with contempt like Qin Hao. It was as if it was mocking him for his incompetence, and he was powerless to resist. Boom! As expected, the revolving sky slash hit Liyaki. But unexpectedly, the raging fire waves did not devour Liyaki. Instead, the red lotus fire was annihilated by another aura that was even stronger. And from Liyaki's position, a dazzling white light suddenly burst out and attacked Qin Hao's original body. It fiercely blasted into his chest. Puff! At this critical moment, Qin Hao hurriedly superimposed the power of 2 spirits and activated the second dragon spirit. Golden dragon scales suddenly flashed in front of his chest and blocked most of the damage. Even so, Qin Hao could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, he felt like he was hit by a heavy hammer and involuntarily flew backward. His legs left 2 marks on the ground that were more than 10 meters long before he stopped. Big brother Qin Hao. Xiao Han turned pale with fright. She was very clear about how strong Qin Hao's cultivation was. He was actually injured in a face-to-face confrontation. It was hard to imagine how strong the white light that had flown over just now was. And at this moment Li Yaqi's trace disappeared. I'm fine. It's just a secondary Emperor-level attack. It's just that it came too suddenly. The tranquil water flowed through Qin Hao's body, and the cracked skin on his chest quickly healed. But the blasted clothes could not be restored. 2 pieces of his chest were exposed, which was very awkward. Roar. At this moment, the dog spirit brought the half-dead old demon back from the ruins. The old demon's origin spirit had collapsed, and a few pieces of skin fell off his head and body. However, they were all external injuries and were not serious. Chapter 11-13. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Subduing people with virtue between 2 mountain streams in the southern suburbs of Flat Mountain City. A stream flowed along the narrow crevice of the mountain stream. It gurgled upstream, reflecting the sunlight. It curved like a piece of silk and disappeared into the forest in the distance. Suddenly, the void above the stream distorted and shattered. A wretched figure fell into the water. The blood on the figure instantly dyed the stream red. Li Yaqi choked on a mouthful of water. Fortunately, the stream was not deep and did not reach his waist. He staggered a few steps and stabilized himself. He spat out 2 more mouthfuls of blood. The blood flowed along the stream. Xiao Qian, the black-white double ghosts. Li Yaqi lowered his head and looked at his wretched reflection in the stream. His expression was unusually pained. Bits and pieces of images flashed through his mind. The ice-cold stream water told him that the woman who had accompanied him day and night and 2 loyal subordinates had died tragically. Suddenly, the reflection in the stream changed. Li Yaqi felt as if he was hallucinating. He saw his face in the water change into another person's face. It was a handsome face. Under the sharp eyebrows was a pair of incomparably deep eyes. He exuded an aura of calmness that surpassed that of ordinary people. 2 strands of white hair fluttered in front of this person's forehead. At first glance, he was gentle and kind. But at second glance, this face exuded an arrogant aura. He was like a god from the 9 heavens. No one dared to look at him directly. You don't even have the right to make me draw my sword. The illusory Qin Hao in the water curled his lips. His gaze was still indifferent and his tone was still disdainful. Bang! Li Yaqi punched out angrily. The water splashed and the face in the water shattered. Qin Hao. He gritted his teeth and growled. Li Yaqi forced himself to forget about his dead subordinates and lover. That would only increase his sadness. It was useless. Dragging his wet body, he walked back to the shore with heavy steps and fell into the grass weakly. His hand moved slowly and he took out a jade pendant from his waist. The jade pendant was warm and there was a powerful aura left behind. If Qin Hao were here, he would definitely recognize that the aura of the white light that had injured him was exactly the same as the one on the jade pendant. However, at this moment, the jade pendant in Li Yaqi's hand had already shattered, and there was only half of it left. Imperial Mother! Tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes. Li Yaqi stared at the broken jade pendant, his eyes filled with reluctance. He could force himself to forget his dead subordinates and lovers, but he couldn't forget that he had left the jade pendant to his mother before he died. It was the power within the jade pendant that had saved Li Yaqi's life from Qin Hao's vortex heaven slash. But from now on, he would lose the only thing left behind by his mother. In reality, at this moment, The half-jade pendant in his hand had already turned into powder and disappeared with the wind. "Qin Hao, I will definitely kill you!" With a ferocious look on his face, Li Yaqi took out a few pills from his spatial ring and suppressed his chaotic internal injuries. Using a special technique to conceal his aura, he left Flat Mountain City. Zhang Mansion. As expected of the most mysterious and famous fusion technique with the greatest potential in martial arts. It can even break my source soul. The old demon lay on the ground and didn't stand up. He was immersed in the black and white cross-shaped light that swept out by Gui Ying as he pondered seriously. How strange and strong his green hat source spirit was. He was very clear on this. Thinking back, Qin Hao couldn't break through it with the great void sword. In the end, he had to combine it with the old demon's spiritual consciousness and the two great Yuan emperors to create a temporary chaos in Dugu Xuanxiao's divine soul. Because of this, the old demon took the opportunity to successfully take over his body. Although Qin Hao's spiritual power was limited at that time and he could only use half of his peak power at most. But even that half was no small matter. Not only was the green hat source soul firm, it also had the ability to swallow, refine, and transform. Today, the old demon didn't even have the chance to swallow or transform before he was directly penetrated by the fusion technique of the black and white double ghost. This was indeed a big blow. Fusion techniques were a very strange and unpredictable power. Often, the damage caused by the fusion wasn't as simple as 1 + 1 being greater than 3. It could even reach the terrifying level of 1 + 1 killing 4. Therefore, the old demon knew that it wasn't unjust that his source soul had been destroyed. After all, that fusion power had come at the cost of sacrificing 2 level 7 Yuan venerates. I have to break through to a higher level. Otherwise, if I encounter such a situation again, not only will I not be able to help Master, but I will also be a burden to him. The old demon finally stood up after thinking it through. He wasn't discouraged by this. Instead, his fighting spirit was stimulated. Qin Hao smiled and nodded. As a former blood emperor, the old demon didn't need to worry about his temperament. At this moment, he recalled who had blocked his vortex sky slash. Qin Hao was a little puzzled about this. If it had been an expert hiding behind Li Yaqi, then the other party wouldn't have escaped. A lesser emperor was qualified enough to challenge him. Unless Qin Hao activated the power of 3 souls and activated 75% of his dragon power to shoot the setting sun arrow, Qin Hao would definitely lose. That clown might not have a simple background. This was the conclusion Qin Hao came to after thinking about it. However, he didn't take it to heart. Given Li Yaqi's fragile temperament and current strength, how could he take revenge on Luo Yunyang? He probably didn't have the guts. Not now. In the future, he would be even less of an eyesore. Now, it was time to settle the matter of the Zhang family and find out the whereabouts of Jing Qingqi's family. Qin Hao walked slowly in front of the Zhang family patriarch and said, "I'll give you a chance to make a move now and resolve the enmity between me and Zhang Jingzi. Life or death is up to the heavens." This meant that he would use this move to appease the Zhang family's anger. After this move, regardless of life or death, the Zhang family wouldn't pursue the matter anymore. If Qin Hao died, everyone in the Zhang family would be happy. If Qin Hao didn't die, the other party wouldn't be able to pester endlessly. However, the Zhang family patriarch shook his head. With old man's mediocre cultivation, how could he be qualified to be the prince consort's enemy? We admit defeat. After saying that, the Zhang family patriarch sighed helplessly. He wasn't a fool. Just now, he saw clearly that the white light that attacked Qin Hao was shockingly powerful. It was comparable to the lesser emperor level. Even so, it couldn't get rid of Qin Hao. The Zhang family patriarch knew very well how powerful he was. Not to mention one move, even 10 or 100 moves wouldn't be able to hurt Qin Hao at all. Old man retracts his previous slander of the prince consort. You just used a few moves to prove that you didn't rely on luck, nor did you take the back door to win the championship. You relied on your true strength. If you really became my Zhang family's enemy, just that dragon-whirling divine art alone could kill everyone in our residence. It seems that the people of the East Continent are not invincible in the world. The Zhang family patriarch bowed to Qin Hao. He was really convinced. Even though Qin Hao had only used a single palm strike and a single martial skill, the Zhang family patriarch could see that the son-in-law of the martial emperor was not a simple martial artist, but a genius with an essence soul among martial artists. He was even a peerless genius among the essence soul geniuses. People like Qin Hao disdained to frame the second son of the Zhang family. Chapter 11:14. Very wild, Grand Elder Zhang's courage to judge right and wrong is admirable. I hope that the Zhang mansion will not make things difficult for the third young master in the future. Qin Hao looked at Zhang Jingchen. The other party was a good person with a pure heart. Hearing that the Zhang family patriarch was crying while hugging the body of the second son, Qin Hao could only advise the Zhang family to restrain their grief. Jingchen, grandfather was wrong. I apologize. The Zhang family patriarch walked up to Zhang Jingchen and took the initiative to admit his mistake. Grandson can't bear it. Zhang Jingchen was flattered. The Zhang family patriarch waved his hand and asked eldest brother Zhang to take care of the body of the second son. Then, he took out Jing Qingqi's token and returned it to Qin Hao. He still owed Qin Hao an answer. This old man really doesn't know the clan emblem on the back of the token. But I once traveled in the southern region and know a very remote place where everyone has the surname Zheng. It's also the place with the most surname Zheng in the southern region. It's very likely that it's the birthplace of the Zheng clan. You can go there and understand the situation. Maybe you can solve the doubts in your heart and find the person you're looking for. The Zhang family patriarch replied seriously. Mr. Zhang, may I ask where this place is? Where is it? Qin Hao couldn't help but be overjoyed. The Zhang family patriarch's answer was very convincing. Jing Qingqi's family was very mysterious. It was very likely that they were hiding here. Prince Consort, go south from Fair Mountain City and pass through the entire Prosper country. You'll pass through the South River corridor between the Proud God Nation and the Myriad Cultivator Alliance. In the South River corridor, there's a very famous scenic spot called the Coiling Dragon Wonder. You can go west from the Coiling Dragon Wonder and follow the Martial Ning Empire to the Grand Ding Duchy. The place that Old Man mentioned is in the Huaishi County of the Grand Ding Duchy. The ruins of Nanlu. Ruins of Nanlu? Qin Hao murmured and remembered it in his heart. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Sorry for disturbing you. I'll take my leave now." Turning around, Qin Hao was about to lead everyone away when he discovered a shivering figure hiding behind the broken rockery of the Zhang mansion. When the figure heard that Qin Hao was leaving, he poked his head out to see if Qin Hao had left. Coincidentally, he met Qin Hao's gaze. It was the coffin-faced youth who had instigated the second son of the Zhang clan. If it wasn't for coffin-face interference, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Bang! Qin Hao was not stingy with his yuan qi. His yuan qi shattered the remaining half of the fake mountain into dust. The coffin-faced young man was killed on the spot, his chest turning into a huge hole. Remember, my name is Qin Hao, and I'm not the prince consort of Great Liao who relies on his status as a martial emperor to run amok, brother dog. Qin Hao let out a deep roar as he stood upright. Roar. The dog's spirit leaped into the air. His beast supremacy aura surged and spread. He spread his 10-meter-long wings and carried Qin Hao away to the south. Qiao who had transformed into a 7-colored skylark, and Xiao Han, who was glowing with a supremacy aura, also left with them. The two centaur warriors also released the powerful aura of the ancient beast race without holding back. Including the old demon, a total of 6 supremacies flew across the sky of Nanping City. It was an extremely shocking sight. The most dazzling of them all was Qin Hao, who was standing on the dog spirit's head. Although his cultivation level was the lowest, the aura he exuded was the strongest. What a tyrannical force! The Zhang clan's patriarch broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, he didn't kill Qin Hao. Otherwise, the Zhang clan would be reduced to the dust of history like Chong Nation in the past. Even so, it wasn't easy for Qin Hao to reach the ruins of Nanlu with this force. It was a journey that spanned almost half of the vast land of Chong Nation in the southern region. It was very dangerous. There were countless experts in the southern region. If Qin Hao was unlucky enough to offend some big families, Emperor Zhao's name wouldn't be useful in the southern region. After removing the blood curse on the servants of the Zhang clan, the old demon followed Qin Hao all the way to the ruins of Chong Nation. The speed of the team wasn't slow, but they didn't rush with all their might. Qin Hao knew very well that the ruins of Nanlu were too far away. It was not a place that could be reached in a short time. Even if the old demon and the others didn't rest at all and took turns to teleport, it would still take a lot of time. However, tearing space consumed a lot of energy. There was still a year before the South Pole Divine Palace. Therefore, they weren't in a hurry to find Jing Qinqi. Killing Xianyuan Wuji and finding out where the universal soil of the Xianyuan family was hidden was also a waste of time. They traveled at a moderate pace for 7 days. Finally, Qin Hao's team stopped at a city called Upper Lin City. After being in the southern region for a while, they had heard some interesting stories about the southern region. Qin Hao knew that there was a place called Star Refining Tower in Upper Lin City. Star Refining Tower was a famous place for refining weapons close to the sea for tens of thousands of miles. In Star Refining Tower, the most famous person was the Tower Master, a Level 9 Royal Level Equipment Forging Master, Gu Huangshou. Qin Hao planned to visit this Level 9 Equipment Forging Master to see if Gu Huangshou could help him solve the problem of embedding the Lingtian Jade into the Taishu sword. Therefore, the team stopped here. When it comes to refining elixirs, I dare to say that I'm the best in the world. But when it comes to refining weapons, Level 9 beginner was my limit in my previous life. I hope Master Gu from the southern region can solve this problem for me. Qin Hao stood on the street of Upper Lin City and looked around. It was very prosperous, not much worse than the rich flat mountain city. It was said that Upper Lin City used to be the territory of a prince in the Prosper country. The reason why it was so prosperous was because it was in the process of being cleaned up. The chicks here are so beautiful, as tender as water. No wonder it's the hometown of the southern region. The old demon looked at the girls on the street with a pair of wretched eyes. He looked at this one, then looked at that one, completely ignoring what others could not stand. Bastard! Finally, the old demon noticed that he had lost his composure when a pretty girl cursed him. When he corrected his attitude, tidied his clothes, and tried to appear more decent, he realized that the pretty girl had disappeared into the crowd. Sigh, what a pity! That girl made Second Master's heart skip a beat. I haven't even had a chance to talk to her, but she abandoned me and left. The old demon shook his head in disappointment. At this moment, he saw a few little brothers from the southern mountain range pointing at him. It was said that the little brothers from Upper Lin City were just like girls. They also wore heavy makeup and were dressed up to the nines. At a glance, it was hard to tell whether they were men or women. Furthermore, they seemed to be praising the old demon for his manliness. Get out of my way! The old demon rolled up his sleeves and released a wild Yuan venerate aura that immediately scared the young men of Upper Lin City away. The girls of the southern region are very lively. However, the men are too effeminate. The old demon snorted. Compared to the martialists of Western Liang and the Northern Territory, The men of the southern region were indeed unbearable. Ha ha ha! The two brothers, Ah-He Huang, clutched their stomachs and burst into laughter. This brother, you are wrong. Not all men in the southern region are as disgusting as those few coquettish fellows. There are also many burly and fierce men in the southern region who are wild like me. At that moment, a dissatisfied and angry voice was heard. Chapter 11:15. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. A competition between Menqin Hao and the others subconsciously looked in the direction of the voice. They wanted to see how much capital the other party had to dare to use the word wild. To be honest, after coming to the southern region, they really hadn't seen any wild men appear. Those martial artists with a certain level of strength also had a scholarly appearance. Occasionally they would encounter robberies. Even the robbers of the southern region had an extraordinary way of talking and were rather polite. They were just short of asking, "Excuse me, may I rob you?" before they attacked. However, when they turned their heads, they realized that the owner of the voice didn't disappoint Qin Hao and the others. He was indeed very wild. In front of them, there were three people standing side by side. Their clothes were extremely revealing. The one in the middle was a young man. Beside the two young men stood two middle-aged bald uncles. Regardless of whether it was the young man or the bald middle-aged man, they were all naked. Only a pair of palm-sized shorts covered their private parts. Moreover, the shorts were triangular. The three of them each wore a pair of high-top leather boots on their feet. On their backs, they each had an eye-catching red cloak. Their figures were excellent. They had 8-pack abs, 2 pectorals, and bulging leg muscles. They were more than 1.8 meters tall. Their bronzed and firm skin outlined a rather wild appearance. Perhaps in order to make their wild appearance more eye-catching, they even burned half of the cloak on their backs with fire. With such an appearance, Qin Hao thought that other than Xiaogua's father, Qi Daxiong, he really couldn't think of anyone he knew who could surpass the three in front of him. Moreover, just as Qin Hao and the others turned around, the three of them deliberately struck a pose. The young man made a pose of standing on one leg. He opened his arms and bent them into the shape of an eagle's hook. The two bald uncles bent their backs and squatted slightly. They held their hands to their foreheads. This combination of appearance looked very dashing to them. Qin Hao and the old demon were stunned. It was indeed very wild. Shameless. K.Er turned around, her face flushed red with embarrassment. The three people behind her were no different from running naked. If they were to run in the streets of Dalyao's imperial city, they would definitely be caught by the imperial guards. Even Xiao Han, who was a woman who did not lose out to men, could not take it anymore. She turned around with K.Er. Only the brothers Huang and Ah-He did not have much of a reaction. From the perspective of magical beasts, even if the three humans in front of them were naked, it was still quite normal. TSK, didn't you just say that the men of the southern mountain range aren't manly enough? Now, the two of you are hurriedly turning around and not daring to look me in the eye. How disappointing. You guys aren't even as generous as the girls of the southern mountain range. To tell you the truth, the girls of the southern mountain range like me the most. The young man, who was about the same age as Qin Hao, raised his head confidently and swayed his incomparably elegant curly hair. At the same time, he threw a flirtatious glance at a southern mountain range woman who was passing by. Pervert! The local girl of Upper Lin City shrieked. She covered her eyes and ran out in panic, undoubtedly giving the other party a hard slap across the face. TSK, you don't know how to appreciate me. TSK, the curly-haired young man spat at the local girl who had been scared away. He looked at Qin Hao and the old demon with a mischievous grin. His chest muscles twitched in a faintly provocative manner. True manliness is not external attire, the old demon said, unconvinced. Oh? Then what do you think true manliness should be like? The curly-haired young man raised his eyebrows and asked, "Whether you are a true man or not, you will know once you find a few women to test." The old demon's face tightened as he leaped up to challenge. "All right, do you dare to compete with me?" "Why wouldn't I dare? All right, let's go to Drunken Flower Brothel and see who can conquer the most women in the shortest time. Follow me if you have the guts. The loser will pay the bill for the winner." The curly-haired young man waved his hand and called out to his two subordinates. He then strode toward a certain street in the city. "Master." He. The old demon smiled wretchedly at Qin Hao. He rubbed his hands together, looking impatient. Ever since he had taken over Dugu Xuanxiao's body, he had not done anything ethical. This inevitably made the old demon a little excited. He wanted to take a leave of absence to compete with the scantily clad young man. Qin Hao rolled his eyes. He took out a bag of earth crystals and threw it to the old demon. He waved his hand and said, "Go. Just don't cause trouble. Go early and return early." "Thank you, master." The old demon was overjoyed with the money and chased after the scantily clad young man. However, when he heard Qin Hao say "go early and return early," he almost fell to the ground. It was not easy for him to become a true man. The old demon did not want to become a 3-second man. "Big brother, let's go and take a look too." Ahei gave Huang a look. After getting the dog spirit's approval, the two brothers caught up with the old demon. Of course, they would not participate in the competition. They were just going to take a look. This was because they had never seen a place where male humans were having fun. In fact, even if they wanted to participate in the competition, with the physique of human women, they would not be able to withstand the impact of the ancient beast warriors. It would be bad if someone died. Big brother Qin Hao, K.Er and I will go to the market and see if we can buy anything valuable. Xiao Han blinked. Without waiting for Qin Hao's permission, she grabbed K.Er's hand and disappeared into the crowd. This was because she knew that Qin Hao would never reject her request. Chapter 11-16. A murderous plot. What? Upper Lin City, inside the Soaring Dragon sect. The sect master's most solemn meeting room. Shi Kuanglong stared at the young man in front of him in astonishment. Shi Kuanglong was the sect master of the Soaring Dragon sect. His cultivation was at the half-step origin sovereign realm. When he met the cold eyes of the young man sitting opposite him, he felt a sense of fear. The eyes opposite him were full of killing intent and unquenchable anger. "That's how it is. If you help me get rid of Qin Hao, the 100,000 earth crystals on the table will belong to you. Of course, considering that Qin Hao has another powerful helper by his side, you can bring their heads to me after this is done. I will pay sect leader Shi another 100,000 earth crystals." Li Yaqi glanced at the sumeru belt on the table and motioned for Shi Kuanglong to accept it. Of course, it wasn't just for him to keep it. Furthermore, it was an order that he had to accept it. All right, I'll order my sect's disciples to carefully search the area within 20,000 kilometers of Upper Lin City. Once that outlander by the name of Qin Hao shows up, I'll make sure he dies under my feet. Shi Kuanglong naturally understood Li Yaqi's determination. The other party's determination was indestructible, not allowing Shi Kuanglong to say a single word. Otherwise, his entire Flying Dragon sect would fall to the ground. I look forward to Sect Master Shi's performance. Li Yaqi stood up with a gloomy face, clenched his fists and stepped out of the door. Farewell, Seventh Emperor. Shut up. Li Yaqi paused his steps. If you're willing to work for me in the future, remember that you're not allowed to call me by that name again. I hate that name. Yes, Mas. Master. Shi Kuanglong, a dignified sect master and a half-step primitive emperor, was so scared that he lowered his head and bent his waist, sweat dripping down his forehead. Very good. If you are loyal to me, I will not treat you unfairly. The mission of killing Qin Hao is to test whether you have the qualifications to be loyal to me. Qin Hao's contemptuous smile flashed through Li Yaqi's mind. He scratched his palm with his fingernails and his aura sank as he disappeared from Shi Kuanglong's sight. Shi Kuanglong immediately heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Li Yaqi's pressure just now was too strong, like a mountain smashing down on his head. Although Shi Kuanglong was not afraid of Li Yaqi's background was enough to consign him to eternal damnation. If Shi Kuanglong was enraged, the entire Soaring Dragon sect would disappear from the southern region. He really didn't dare to disobey. Although Li Yaqi isn't an important person, he's still a member of the Li clan. It's not shameful to work for him. Shi Kuanglong will definitely be able to reach the Emperor stage with the help of the Li family. Ha ha! After considering the pros and cons, Shi Kuanglong raised his head and laughed heartily. Through the conversation just now, he could see that his master was not as bad as the rumors said. In fact, he was a very ambitious person. People with great ambition usually wouldn't be weak in the future. Once I get rid of Qin Hao, I will be qualified to become master's servant in the truest sense. I must succeed at all costs. Shi Kuanglong pondered. The next step was to think about what to do. It wasn't easy to find a person in the vast southern region. The first idea that came to his mind was actually his son. Xiang has a wide circle of friends, and he has connections in all directions. His group of scoundrels is not to be underestimated. Perhaps they will achieve unexpected results. Yes, I'll leave it to him to find Qin Hao's whereabouts. Shi Kuanglong let out a sigh of relief and a smile appeared on his face. He was very satisfied with his son. He was just about to order someone to summon Shi Xiang. However, he suddenly became alert. His son had gone to the star refining building today. This kid just got a piece of frost iron and was so happy to go to the star refining building to ask the blacksmiths to refine it. How could it be so easy to get the blacksmiths of the star refining building to do it? Sigh. Shi Kuanglong stood at the door with his hands behind his back and sighed. Not to mention his son, even he, a half-step origin emperor, had to make an appointment in advance if he wanted to ask the blacksmiths of the star refining building to refine a weapon. Moreover, he might not be able to get a high-grade blacksmith. Not to mention the owner of the star refining building, the 9th-grade high-grade emperor-level blacksmith, the only famous blacksmith in the coastal area, Emperor Gu. Even Shi Kuanglong, a half-step origin emperor, found it extremely difficult to meet Master Gu. Therefore, his son couldn't cut the queue with his identity as the young lord of the star refining building. He had to go through the proper procedures step by step. When Xiang comes back, it'll be dark. Shi Kuanglong shook his head again and walked back to his room helplessly. He was full of longing for Master Gu. When and where would he be lucky enough to ask Master Gu to refine a divine soldier for him? Star refining building. It was divided into 10 floors. Like a majestic iron tower, it stood at the corner of a secluded street in the northern district of Upper Lin City. Although its location wasn't conspicuous, there were always people in front of its door. Especially in the morning, when the number of people was the highest, the street was blocked. Even the door of the star refining building couldn't be squeezed in. This was because there were too many martial artists who came because of its reputation and were too enthusiastic. Counting from the bottom to the top, every floor of the star refining building represented the higher grade of the weaponsmiths on that floor. The second floor was for first-grade weaponsmiths, who specialized in refining ordinary weapons for martial artists of the Gathering Yuan realm. The third floor was for second-grade weaponsmiths, who specialized in refining weapons for martial artists of the Origin realm. The fourth floor was for the Origin sect, who specialized in refining weapons, and so on and so forth. The top floor was Emperor Gu's weaponsmithing place. The 10th floor was the most deserted floor in the entire star refining building. This was because almost no one could be favored by Master Gu. Therefore, even after 8 to 10 years, no one could reach the 10th floor. As for the lowest floor of the star refining building, it was the public hall. All the martial artists who came to refine weapons had to line up and submit an application form according to the type and grade of their weapons. Then, someone in charge would write down which weaponsmiths of the star refining building should refine the divine soldier for them. The whole process was very strict. After arriving at the star refining building, Qin Hao stood on the street and nodded in admiration. He could guess the quality of the weaponsmiths inside just by looking at the architectural style and aura of the building. This star refining building is indeed a holy land of weaponsmithing that is famous in half of the coastal area. I believe Master Gu's skills will be pleasing to the eyes. I hope he can solve Ling Tianyu's problem with a satisfactory explanation. Since it was noon, there were not many cultivators outside the star refining building. After a whole morning, many of the cultivators had obtained the weapons they wanted and left with happy hearts. Qin Hao walked in naturally. Of course, before entering the star refining building, Brother Dog had to temporarily return to the space ring made by the Void Spirit Stone. The star refining building was very strict and didn't allow contract beasts to appear. Chapter 11-17. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Find me a rank 8-1. Stepping into the main hall, the place was packed with people. Facing the main entrance, there were 36 registration points. The queue at each registration point was 40 meters long. There were no less than 100 people. Apart from filling in the form to refine weapons, the martial artists who came to register also had to pay the corresponding remuneration. For low-class ordinary weapons and refined weapons, the star refining tower collected ordinary gold and silver. For holy weapons and above, they needed the other party's origin crystals. Apart from that, some craftsmen with special hobbies, if they encountered rare ores that they liked, would propose a condition to the other party during the refining process and take the remaining ores for themselves. All of this was money. It could be said that in the entire Upper Lin City, apart from the Drunken Flower House and the Pill Workshop, the Star Refining Tower was the place that burned the most money. Qin Hao found a queue near the entrance of the hall, and like the others, he waited patiently. With the strict rules and regulations of the Star Refining Tower, it was impossible to make things convenient for anyone. Here, all identity, status, and strength would be reduced to nothingness. Here, there were only martial artists who were sincere in seeking good works. There were no sect masters, faction leaders, rich second generation, or officials. The balance of the Star Refining Tower would not tilt to one person. After waiting for a long time, Qin Hao, who stood at the end of the queue, moved slowly like an ant. Qin Hao's heart was as calm as water. He waited with great patience. Gradually, he approached the registration point. At this time, there were only 3 martial artists left in front of him. However, behind Qin Hao, the crowd that came because of his fame formed a long line. Qin Hao went from the last position to the leader in the blink of an eye. "Hey, brother in front, do you want to change seats? 500 Xian crystals, deal?" A voice came from behind. It was directed at Qin Hao. In fact, the voice of "change seats" had been heard more than once. It was also more than one person who called Qin Hao from behind. Qin Hao remained unmoved from beginning to end. "How about 600? Deal?" The voice behind him did not give up. Qin Hao still shook his head. 700, 700, do you want it or not? 700, no more." The other party was very anxious. Qin Hao quickly covered his ears with his hands. Motherf *Ker, the owner of the voice, couldn't help but get angry. He had asked Qin Hao for help more than once. He, young Master Shi, was a man of status. Yet he was so sincere and had repeatedly asked for help. This was the first time since this year. Due to the rules of the Star Refining Tower, young Master Shi did not dare to teach Qin Hao a lesson. However, that didn't stop him from provoking them. Shi Xiang was really angry. His mood of wanting to refine artifacts was indeed very urgent. He couldn't hold it in any longer. He came out from the back of the team and walked to Qin Hao's position in 3 steps. He gave him a hard shove with his hand. Then, she glared at him with a pair of tiger eyes and began to threaten him. Shi Xiang, return to your position. One of the managers at the registration point shouted. Young Master Shi was the son of the Soaring Dragon sect master Shi Kuanglong. Everyone in Upper Lin City knew about this. Brat, don't be a coward. See how I'll deal with you later. Shi Xiang pointed at Qin Hao's face and threatened. His luck was pretty good recently. It wasn't easy for him to obtain a 900-year-old cold steel wondrous stone. He was here to refine artifacts. He wanted a satisfactory artifact. Therefore, he couldn't offend the manager at the registration point. Shi Xiang reluctantly retreated. Young Master Shi, please wait. I'll give my position to you. A flattering voice sounded from the team next to him. Shi Xiang was overjoyed. He raised his head and said, So it's the Tsang family's young master Tsang Ying. Many thanks. I'm really in a hurry today. After I'm done refining artifacts, I'll be the host tonight. I'll invite Brother Tsang to the Drunken Flower Pavilion to have a good time. Shi Xiang happily walked over. As Tsang Ying moved his position, Shi Xiang stuck his leg in. He was afraid that someone would take advantage of the gap. The Tsang family was much weaker than the Soaring Dragon sect. In fact, Tsang Ying wanted to curry favor with Shi Xiang by giving his position to him. Shi Xiang was also clear about this point, so he didn't mind it. When the manager saw the two of them exchanging positions, he only rolled his eyes and did not say anything. One was willing to be beaten and the other was willing to be beaten. Brat, you're really blind. Just wait for Shi Xiang to play you to death. Tsang Ying mocked as he walked past Qin Hao. He was rejoicing in his misfortune. Shi Xiang wasn't just a good-for-nothing in the city. He was also famous for holding grudges. In short, he could take advantage of others, but he couldn't suffer any losses. He was willing to lower his status and beg Qin Hao to change positions. This was already a rare style. However, Qin Hao didn't know how to appreciate it. Fortunately, Qin Hao didn't know how to appreciate it and gave Tsang Ying a chance to perform. Tsang Ying was overjoyed. He felt that if he could get closer to Shi Xiang, his status would rise. From then on, everyone in the family would look at him in a new light. He could walk sideways in the city. He even dared to flip someone's stall. Qin Hao didn't look at Tsang Ying because he didn't care about such a small character. Instead, he looked at Shi Xiang, who was threatening him. From the looks of it, this young man named Shi Xiang seemed to have an extraordinary status. Your status may be extraordinary, but I'm not that easy to bully. Qin Hao muttered to himself. The Haoqi alliance had never provoked or feared anyone. Qin Hao had enough ability to protect himself. Moreover, the old demon and the others weren't ordinary people. If this group of people wanted to cause trouble, there weren't many experts in the Upper Lin City who could stop them. Therefore, Qin Hao wasn't afraid. Shi Xiang also ignored Qin Hao for the time being. He only wanted to find the cold iron ores and ask the refiners of the Star Refining Tower to forge a peerless divine soldier. Then, he would use his warm divine soldier to kill Qin Hao mercilessly. Qin Hao was the sacrifice for his weapon. That was what he thought. Young Master Shi, what grade and what kind of weapon do you want to refine? The manager who received Shi Xiang raised his head and looked at him with a pair of indifferent eyes. After exchanging places with Tsang Ying, Shi Xiang's position in the second group was even higher than Qin Hao's. Therefore, he filled in the form first. "Uncle Manager, please find me an 8th-tier blacksmith. I want to refine an invincible treasured sword. These are my materials." Shi Xiang rubbed his hands and impatiently took out a dark stone the size of a bowl. The stone in his eyes showed that he was very fond of it. He placed the stone on the manager's table with trembling hands. His movements were so careful as he anxiously waited for the manager's reply. It was said that Shi Xiang wanted an 8th realm refiner of the Star Refining Tower. The surrounding people exclaimed in surprise. An 8th realm refiner. That was an almighty refiner who had reached the king's stage. He was one of the most skilled refiners in the Star Refining Tower. What was even more surprising was that the 8th-grade blacksmith Shi Xiang wanted had to be a high-ranking blacksmith among the 8th-grade blacksmith. In terms of rank, the advanced 8th realm refiner was only 2 levels higher than the beginner and intermediate 8th realm refiners. However, the advanced 8th realm refiner's technique was completely incomparable to the beginner and intermediate 8th realm refiners. It required a huge amount of experience. In the entire Star Refining Tower, other than the royal refiner and tower master Gu Huangshou, the person Shi Xiang pointed out was the top existence. Involuntarily, the crowd sighed again. However, when they saw the materials Shi Xiang took out, they felt relieved. Chapter 11-18. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. I want to see the owner. No wonder young Master Shi was so confident to ask for an 8th-grade blacksmith. He actually got a piece of cold steel stone. Cold steel stone is so precious. It's a waste to give it to a 7th-grade blacksmith. It's too hard to find on the market. It's said that 100-year-old cold steel stone weighs 50 Xian crystals per gram. Even so, no one is willing to buy it. The cold steel stone in young Master Shi's hand is so big. Its value is immeasurable. The hall was in an uproar. Countless envious eyes gathered on Shi Xiang. He enjoyed it very much. He thought he was the happiest person in Upper Lin City. With the cold steel stone, he was not afraid that he couldn't ask the 8th-grade blacksmith in Star Refining Tower. It was Shi Xiang's honor to ask the 8th-grade blacksmith to help him. Qin Hao in the crowd shook his head. When did cold steel stone become so valuable? Although it was indeed very precious, not all kinds of geological formations could produce cold steel stone. Geological formations that could produce cold steel stone were extremely difficult to find. The longer it was produced, the more precious it was. However, low-grade cold steel stone was far less valuable in the desolate western Liang than in the southern mountain range. Its price was also not as exaggerated as the rumors said. 100-year-old cold steel cost 50 Xian crystals per gram? And no one is willing to buy it? If Qin Hao took out the 10 millennia cold steel king from his ring, wouldn't all the warriors here be scared to death? The 10 millennia cold steel king was found in the underground world where Vivian was sealed. In order to excavate the entrance to the underground world, Merchant Union Councilman Hai Dafu almost went bankrupt. Qin Hao's 10 millennia cold steel king was as tall as 100 zhang. It was as thick as a mountain and was indestructible. In the end, he relied on Wu Lida's Sky Extinction Spear to shoot out Sky Extinction Golden Flame to break the original Cold Steel King and open the entrance to the underground world. However, the inside of the Endless Tunnel was also made up of 10 millennia cold steel. At this time, Qin Hao took out a finger-sized Cold Steel King, and it was enough to defeat Shi Xiang and destroy his vanity. As for the century-old winter iron, in Qin Hao's eyes, it was no different from trash. Shi Xiang, on the other hand, did not think so. Right now, he was very proud of himself. He was swimming in the envious gazes of the crowd. He confidently pointed at the manager of the No. 2 registration office and said, "I want Master Ganjiang from the 9th floor of the Star Refining Tower. I completely trust Master Ganjiang's superb craftsmanship." Shi Xiang didn't think that he would be rejected by Master Ganjiang if he had a bowl-sized piece of 100-year frost iron. Master Xia can't forge for you. A few days ago, he secretly drank a bottle of 1,000 Days Drunk from Tower Master, and then, 3 drops of awkward sweat appeared on the supervisor's forehead. 1,000 Days Drunk, Shi Xiang glared at him. One mouthful of this thing could make one drunk for 1,000 days. Old man Xia wouldn't wake up at least 3 to 5 years later. Moreover, after drinking the whole bottle, he might not wake up for the rest of his life. Why am I so unlucky? Forget it. Let Master Kuang Tai forge for me, okay? I believe Master Kuang Tai must have a lot of time. Shi Xiang clenched his teeth, and could only concede again and again. When Kuang Tai was mentioned, the faces of all the surrounding martial artists changed. Because this Master Kuang Tai's character was even worse than Old Man Xia's. Not only did he like to embezzle materials, but he also raised the price abruptly. He was the most unreliable Grade 8 blacksmith on the 9th floor of the Star Refining Tower. Moreover, he was the most basic Grade 8 blacksmith. But Shi Xiang had no other choice. Ganjiang's business might not be completed even after the new year. When Old Man Xia woke up, forget it, he might not wake up for the rest of his life. Right now, only Kuang Tai was idle. Kuang Tai was Shi Xiang's only candidate. He couldn't find a Grade 7 blacksmith, right? If that was the case, he might as well not forge. Okay, I'll arrange for Master Kuang Tai for you. I believe Master Kuang Tai will be very excited when he knows he has a business. After all, he has been idle for 3 years. The supervisor ignored Shi Xiang's black face and waved his brush to fill in the form for his cousin. Hearing that Kuang Tai had been idle for 3 years, Shi Xiang felt a little regretful. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Shi Xiang couldn't break the contract. Once he did, not only would the materials be confiscated by the Star Refining Tower, but he would also have to pay 3 times the commission. Therefore, Shi Xiang, who felt that he was the luckiest person in the Upper Lin City, dragged his heavy footsteps toward Kuang Tai's crafting room on the 9th floor. At this moment, he felt darkness in front of him and became the most unlucky person in the world. "Little brother, what grade of weapon do you want to forge?" At this time, Qin Hao heard a call. It was the supervisor of Registration Office No. 1. The 3 martial artists in front of Qin Hao had all finished their registration. Unknowingly, it was Qin Hao's turn. Looking in the direction of the voice, the supervisor in charge of receiving Qin Hao was in his early 30s. He was still very young. Perhaps he sympathized with Qin Hao's experience and was inexplicably threatened by Shi Xiang. The supervisor's voice was very gentle. "Big brother supervisor, I'm not here to forge weapons. I want to talk to Master Gu. Can you arrange it for me?" Qin Hao stated his purpose. He wanted to meet the owner of the building. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.